Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of the Shenmue Dojo Show. I am Skill Jim, and joining me as always is Mr. New Era, New Energy, Matthew Oliver. Matt, How are you? And can you give me your best obligatory, I can't believe it's Season 4 already?
I'm good. I can't believe it's Season 4 already. What the hell's happened to us? It's gone quick.
4 years, man.
I know. God, it's gone quick.
Absolutely scary.
I know. God. And I'm looking back at the other episodes for picking bits and pieces out for videos and things, and you think, is it really that long ago that we did that show? Or it's mad. It's gone so fast.
Well, we had that discussion like once, didn't we? We were like, God, that Kickstarter timeline thing was like literally the 3rd episode or something daft.
I know. God.
Not good. How are you doing then, Matt? You okay? You had a nice Christmas break, New Year, whatever we had?
Yeah, I mean, Christmas and New Year. I ate too much, I drank too much, and then I went back to the gym and felt the shame of all of it. And certainly feeling it a little bit now still. But yeah, I had a good time, good break. Had the first week of January off, which was nice, and just chilled out. Played some games, did some bits and pieces, all that sort of stuff, and now back into the swing of things. Now we're properly into January, which nobody really likes January, let's be brutally honest about it, but still, all good.
I quite like January just because it's my birthday month. So
true, that's a good reason for me as well. But yeah,
although I don't like it at the moment actually, just because I'm getting older and older and older. So when I was like 30, it probably started then, so it's just horrible aging into
blinking, you miss it now, isn't it? But do you have a good Christmas, New Year and break?
I did actually, yeah. It was nice because I had Christmas off. So I actually spent some time with the family, and Penny's birthday is the same week, so spent time with her, and normally I'm working on these days, so it was nice just to be able to have the whole week off and just chill and relax and actually recharge my batteries somewhat. And then back in the swing of things with work, and it's bloody freezing at the moment. Like I say, it was like minus 9 degrees Celsius today, which is just insane. Like 6 layers on.
Jesus, yeah.
But yeah, just sort of cracking on with life. I've actually played a game, Matt, can you believe it or not, this year?
Bloody hell.
So far, finished a game already. Yeah, a couple of weeks in January, I've finished Alan Wake Remastered. Based on your recommendation.
I have to say I'm a fan of the Alan Wake games. I've finished the second one about a week ago and really enjoyed it. The first game was cool. A little bit repetitive in parts, possibly, but I love the story with it.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realise it was so scary, to be honest. Kind of like a horror game, isn't it?
Yeah, it shits you up, that game. It's good.
Yeah, I didn't realise.
It's got some very good jump scares in there.
For some reason I thought it was like a detective game or something, which it kind of is, I suppose, but mainly on the darker side of that.
Yeah.
Cracking on then, guys. So you may remember at the end of Season 3, we were quite a way through a series of episodes covering Shenmue 3's Kickstarter updates with parts 1, 2 and 3 at the end of last season. Probably just one more part left required to sort of finish that series off. So what better way to kick off Season 4 than to jump straight into a fresh new mini-series. That's right. So today we're going to be heading back before Shenmue 3's Kickstarter with 2014's YOKOSUKA Shenmue Postmortem at GDC. And helping us to tackle this topic is our metric system-centric pal, Miles per Hour, a.k.a. Stuart Peacock, a.k.a. Shenmusings, a.k.a. Any more names there, Stu?
I think you got them all, yeah. Makes you sound really dodgy with all these names.
There's a bit alternative names. How are you doing, man? You okay?
I'm good, thanks. And yeah, thanks for having me again, guys. Great to be on again.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for returning. We were always going to get you back on the show at some point. We just sort of went into this Kickstarter deep dive thing that we were still yet to finish, but we will get there in due course, guys. We're going to try and make this sort of a two-parter of a show. Today we're going to be, like I say, looking at the GDC, that important 2014 one. This is just the sort of the murmurings just before Shenmue 3 sort of got announced. So interesting side of things there, life before Shenmue 3, as it were. But we're going to jump straight into the news. So, Matt, I actually haven't covered this yet in a show, and this feels ages ago. I know we were waiting for this for quite a while, but for some reason it feels ages ago to me now already. But Yu Suzuki's end-of-year message for Famitsu magazine. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
I can, and I think he did this just shortly after Christmas, and I think I did a short video on it. I can't remember. And
Yeah,
then
you did.
It's sort of blinking, you miss it. But anyway,
yeah.
He spoke to Famitsu with his message for 2024, and he talked about his key theme for 2024. That's one of the questions. What's your key theme for 2024? And he said, creating games I'd want to play myself, which, fair enough, that makes absolute sense. Next question was, what's your New Year's resolution aspirations for 2024? This was interesting, actually. It was collaborate on a project with scriptwriters and musicians from different industries. Now, reading into that, you think, well, it just sounds quite cool. But from a Shenmue fan's point of view, and certainly something that it sort of struck my interest, is actually that could well work for Shenmue if he got some script writers in and people like that for a Shenmue 4. We know, I'm not going to go into the Shenmue 3 story, but we all agree that's the weakest part of Shenmue 3 because they essentially, I don't think they had that expertise there for it to do all the fleshing out that the other games did. But if he's wanting to work with script writers and musicians from different industries, that says to me thinking about maintaining quality storytelling, which would be brilliant. So that was a real positive in my opinion on that. Coming on, he then talks about, they asked about for a status update, and he said in 2023 they successfully released a fantasy shooting game called Air Twister on home gaming consoles and PC, and feel free to enjoy the new year and new year holidays with casual fun of Air Twister, which we all agree is a decent game. We obviously reviewed that earlier in 2023. And the final question was, what will you be keeping an eye on in 2024? And he said, I believe that clever and compelling stories like those found in Spy Cross Family, or a Spy Times Family, whatever you want to call it, and the Apothecary Diaries could be beneficial in game development. By the way, I recently got my hands on Juzo Itami Film Collection Blu-ray box and have been grinning happily ever since. So he's clearly, I think, looking at storytelling and how to tell a compelling story and how that's being done in modern times, it sounds like, which is always a positive, I think.
Interesting.
And trying to move himself forward in that regard. And I'd be interested to see how that feeds into WiseNet's plans for 2024. We know they've got a game in development. He talked about that last year, so we just have to see where we end up from here, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. And like you say, coming from a Shenmue fan's perspective, you can kind of see some things in here that are promising, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
The game that Yu Suzuki wants to play is a Shenmue game. What do you think Yu Suzuki wants to play, Stu?
I mean, you'd hope it would be a new Shenmue, wouldn't you? And yeah, I mean, the stuff about storytelling, that is actually really, really intriguing. And I mean, might be reading too much into it. Like maybe he recognises the shortcomings of Shenmue 3 in that department, and that's sort of why he's making comments like that. So yeah, obviously we'll have to wait and see, but yeah, definitely interesting.
2024 looking bright. Yu Suzuki department there, hopefully, fingers crossed. Next up, Matt, Dreams of Saturn released to critical acclaim.
It was
at the end of season 3's Christmas show we did with George Kitchen. Obviously the game was like due to be released in the coming weeks at that point, but now it's actually been out for like best part of a month now. How do you think it did, basically?
Insanely well. It's the only way I can say. I think it's funny with George as well, because he released it, very quickly updated it to a version 1.1, which I think we streamed before Christmas. It's now on version 1.9, and the amount of updates and changes that he's made to it in what is a very fairly short space of time, bearing in mind it's probably about 3-4 weeks since it's come out, and he's taken on the feedback and made some changes in terms of quality of life, in terms of people wanting to complete the game faster. But me talking about that, I think, doesn't do the game justice. The game itself is fantastic, and for those of you who haven't come across it yet, it's essentially a first-person view set pre-Shenmue 1, where Ryo Hazuki is hunting Santa-chan, so it's inspired by the Chobi-chan hunt from Shenmue 3 to win himself a Sega Saturn. And there's some cutscenes in there, I won't spoil it, you can go and play it, that predates Shenmue 1, but fill in some of the gaps around the story of Shenmue 1 a little bit from George's point of view, and trying very, very hard to sort of respect the canon, which is great. It's also got some very tongue-in-cheek humour. It does point and laugh at itself quite a lot, and that's also great. It encourages exploration. It's very much an old school game. It's essentially what they've done is they've ripped Shenmue 1 assets out of the game, popped it into Unity, and made this absolutely fantastic game. It's been streamed by Maximilian Dude. I think didn't the YouTube video get like over 100,000 hits or something silly? Like
Insane,
it's done.
yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
And there was like 10,000 viewers at the time watching it live, right?
Mental. 10,000 viewers watching that game, and God knows how many downloads. I wish we'd have tracked it properly because I'd love to know.
Yeah.
And then Brutal Moose also did a stream over between Christmas and New Year, which I'm in the middle of watching the VOD. And again, he was really enjoying it. And that's, again, quite a popular YouTuber, streamer picking this up, who's a Shenmue fan. It's created a real big little buzz, and we need more fan projects like this. And he's not even finished, because we've got 2.0 coming out eventually, which is probably going to have the Harbour in it. And he's already, if you've been in our Discord, working on a Shenmue 2 Guilin game, releasing, I think, around September time with what was being mooted. But the screenshots you've shown us in the Discord are brilliant.
Unbelievable,
and
aren't they?
Bearing in mind he's now learnt Unity. Now he's going to learn from what he did in the first game. So you just think it'd be a natural progression and be even better. And the game's bloody good as it is.
Yeah, those screenshots and what have you he's been sharing in the Discord, just so stunning. Like how he's sort of adapting the water to be like reflections and all that sort of stuff, and then the skies he's ripping from Shenmue 3 and that sort of stuff. It just looks so cool, and I quite like that. I know he was a bit sort of like hesitant to try and go too out there with the graphics and stuff like that, but I quite like actually the effect of having Shenmue 2's textures and models and assets and stuff merged with, more modern graphical things that probably Yu Suzuki would have even utilised at the time if they were possible to him at the time, if you know what I mean. Obviously, they tried to have a bloody moon that orbits the game, if you know what I mean, in Shenmue 2. So I'm pretty sure if the technology was there like it is today, to be able to sort of integrate aspects of that into Shenmue Dreamcast style or whatever, I'm sure he would have done back in the day, and it just looks so good. Stu, I think you were playing Dreams of Saturn. You mentioned it in the Discord, I'm sure. How did you find it? Have you finished it?
I've not quite finished it yet. I am very close to the end, but I've played the bulk of the game, and it's just an amazing piece of work. I mean, George is just like an absolute machine. Like, I don't know how he does it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, playing through it the other day, like I had to DM him on Discord and say, like, mate, this game, like, honestly, like, you've kind of cured my January blues a bit, because this time of year everyone's feeling a bit crappy, aren't they? Like, just after Christmas, it's dark, it's cold outside. But playing through that, like, it just gave me such a warm, fuzzy feeling, and I had to like let him know, like, mate, this actually really cheered me up today playing through this game. I don't know what it is. It's just something about like going to each of the shops and like finding the Santa Chans. Like, it's really rewarding, and to take what was really a good bit out of Shenmue 3 and then put that into Shenmue 1 locations, like, it just works really well. And like, as you say, the humour in the game is really good as well. So yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic piece of work, and I don't know how he does it, but
yeah, for sure. It's just like capture the magic that you experienced in Shenmue 1.
Yeah,
100%.
The atmosphere and just the attention to detail, and it's chock full of mini games as well. So like, you know, if you're listening to this, you've not played Dreams of Saturn yet, you've got a PC or a device that will play the game, you can find the link to download it over on the dojo. It's still on the main page. It's the front news article currently, although I do intend to add a couple of new news posts that we're sort of slacking on a little bit, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it there, and if not, it's in the media section under fan games. Moving on, another little fan game project. Buzzies, what did they say? 2 at once, more at once, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're waiting for one and then, multiple come at the same time. We've got another one here. Shenmue 4 2.5D have just released a battle test demo, and I think you played this, Matt, because you did a video on this as well.
I did, yes. I had a very quick go with this, I think last week, in fact. And for those of you who don't know what this is, Shenmue 4 2.5D is a side-scrolling Shenmue game. Basically, Shenmue 4 is or a take on Shenmue 4 at least. And but you, instead of being sort of flat, sort of, you think your old sort of 16-bit Sonic the Hedgehog where you can just move left to right, with this you can move left, right, up and down as well. It's made in Unreal, and the art style is really cool. Actually, it's got that old sort of almost pixel art type style to it, which is really cool. And they've released a very small battle test demo where you end up having a small fight with Ewing. You can't hit her because it's Ewing and you're never going to be able to hit her, but that's the point. And it's very simple. You can sort of move using WAS and D, and you press one button to throw punches and kicks. And also you can open up the inventory, which I think is based off of Shenmue 1 and 2's HD inventory as well. It's a very tidy little demo. I think they're just doing it to get some feedback. I did read, I might be wrong in this, but I did read they were looking at releasing a full-scale demo in March, April time this year. Okay. I'll be very interested to see how that plays out when that comes out, and I'd certainly be quite happy to sit down and either stream it or do a video on it. But it's a very different style of game to Dreams of Saturn, but again, we need fan projects like this because it gets the community buzzing, and what better way to have another sort of fan project, but the completely different spectrum in terms of the way it's presented and the way it plays. I think it's a really good little project.
We are getting some really novel pieces of content from people, aren't we? We've got sort of a first-person take on Shenmue, the Shenmue 2 game releasing later, and then the sort of 2.5D style game that's going to be based on presumably what want to see in a Shenmue 4, or presume that we might see in a Shenmue 4.
Presumably.
So that's, interesting. Then obviously we've got the Dragon and Phoenix project, however that's getting on, with a couple of little updates recently. Matt, if you want to have a quick talk about them.
Yeah, just very sort of quick updates with those. So there was a small update where they posted a work in progress start screen. So for those of you who remember the trailer, I think at the back end of 22-23 there was this, they'd recreated the cherry tree section that I think was from the old Shenmue trailers back in the day. They recreated that, so that's sort of blurred out a bit, and then you've got a start screen there as well. There was also a very short video released of some in-game bits and pieces with Rio walking around and going into the U arcade and having a look around there as well. So it seems to be moving along quite nicely. It's gone quiet for a little while, but I get the impression that there's going to be more updates coming as the year progresses.
Exciting times. And I mean, so much fan-created content. The next bit of news on my list here is the Joe Kitchen video that actually shows how he produces his insane fan-created YouTube videos. It's just madness, isn't it?
It's mental.
I mean, obviously 2 out of 4 of these are the Kitchen Brothers. they're covering 50% of this, but just seeing the work and effort that goes into making a Joe Kitchen video, from just seeing how he can actually load in a save from the regular Shenmue 1 and 2 game and open where he is in the game in a different program, and it like rips all the scenery and the assets, and it's just mad how it actually works, like Ninja Ripper. And then he goes and uses other tools to create the video footage and animates the characters and puts them in different stances and filters out the textures and stuff to make everything look nice, get rid of transparency, maybe add in a new sky so it's not using the Shenmue sky, it's got like modern take on stuff, sort of like what George is doing. Just amazing. And then going off and recording voice lines. Obviously they make their own music as well, so telling these Shenmue stories, it just, honestly, it's magic, isn't it? It doesn't make sense how it comes together and ends up being an actual video episode story that you can sit down and watch. And Joe's made a load of these over the years. Well, how long's he been doing it now? Maybe a year, actually.
That's
a little bit over, perhaps
18 months. Yeah, it's quite a while.
And I think there's like 12 episodes of his short stories, and then there's like other little chunks and stuff that he does with different characters, theme tunes for them, and just sort of showing a random NPC's day-to-day life. It's marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the amount of work that goes into those videos is mental. I mean, I edit our videos for the shows and obviously do the news videos and things like that. But this, that takes time. But this is on another level. in terms of detail, intricacy, the tools being used, the time it takes to get everything right. And knowing both Joe and George, they are very much perfectionists. And if it isn't right, it doesn't go in, or it gets put right. And that can take a long, long time. And I think what this video helps with is actually helping people understand that A, the tools they're using, and B, I think it encourages people to have a go. Because like I'm thinking about just downloading everything and just messing about and seeing what I can do with it just for a laugh.
Yeah.
So more people who are going to go and pick that up and are clearly more talented with videos than I will ever be will start picking things up and hopefully making their own Shenmue content as well. And the more Shenmue content out there in terms of from the fans and just getting the community buzzing, the better, really the better, because that's what we need, and it always helps.
I don't know how they do it. We're going to be playing some music as well later in the show. Actually, from George Kitchen, he's give us a little bit of music from some of the projects there that they've been working on together. Moving on then, guys. So Retro Gamer magazine is this Insider magazine, right? That they've got a top 20 games of all time kind of a thing that they're going on, but it's not all time. It's like between the timeline of the magazine being released, so before, so like the start of Retro all the way up to like Xbox, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I think like PS2, Xbox, GameCube is the cut-off, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right.
Quick fire, Stu. Top 20, go.
Oh my god! Like I haven't even. I am going to do this because like I've been a subscriber to the magazine since like 2005. Oh my god, that's almost 20 years. Like what the hell? The whole concept of what is retro has changed since the magazine launched. That is just completely insane. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a moment here.
And I know you can't do 20 on the spot.
Yeah, no, needless to say, Shenmue 1 and 2 are among them. But I'm going to have to sit down and like think about this because obviously it's quite a specific time frame as well. So yeah, it's going to take some sitting down, a lot of thinking, I think. But the Shenmue games will definitely be in there. I can promise you that.
It was all right for me, actually, because my top 20 probably is before that timeline anyway. So within that timeline, all my best games, just because I think it's just what you grow up with. You know, it's going to be different for people growing up in this day and age. Probably, pop Fortnite or something at the top, or Breath of the Wild, or Tears of the Kingdom or something. But like for me, I just bizarrely, after about Xbox, I honestly cannot think of a game from then till now that I would put above what I played as a kid. And that probably is just because of the fondness of the games that you play as a kid and some of the groundbreaking stuff, that just the insane, you putting a game in and that feeling and opening a Christmas present. It's a Mega Drive game, just games that you wouldn't think would have such a lasting effect, but as a kid they do, because it's the impact of that experience, and I just don't seem to get that from modern games. But I think that is just because it's just an age thing. I think if I was a young person in the same shoes playing the modern games, I'm sure there'd be the same sort of spark I'd had as a kid. I don't know many ads and as I said them, but yeah.
I mean, I think even ones we played as teenagers, because I mean we were all born in 1987, weren't we? I mean, I think us three were actually born in January,
pretty much the same year.
So we're 37 or we're close to it at this point. And sorry, I'm not going to go off on too much of a tangent here, but when you're a teenager, obviously that's a significant transition in your life, and like the things you experience then are going to have like a massive effect on you. And if you think like when we played Shenmue 1 and 2, we'd have been like 13, 14. And I think that's such an important time in your life. And obviously those two games being as amazing and groundbreaking as they are, and us, kind of coming of age, like they were always going to have like a profound effectiveness. And, we're still bleating on about them over 20 years later when we're like nearly pushing 40.
Oh yeah.
Trying to convince these young whippersnappers like what fantastic games they are. So Yeah,
It does show the impression that they've left, doesn't it?
exactly. Yeah.
For sure. So, Matt, how would someone that's listening to the show now go about leaving a top 20 and making sure that Shenmue and Shenmue 2 are the top 2 in this poll?
So it should be very easy. All you need to do is email Retro Gamer Magazine on retrogamer@futurenet.com. You need to use the subject line 100. They put the numbers in for that. I don't know if you get away with it by actually typing the word 100 out, but there you are. And then you literally send them your top 20 for the top 100 list they've got. I've put Shenmue 1 at the top tactically because I think a lot of people are going to put Shenmue 1 at the top over Shenmue 2 just because it's the one that goes sort of foremost in their minds to a point. And I think it's a bit of tactical voting that's worth doing, and other people should do that. And then obviously I've put other little titles in there as well, like Sonic Adventures in there,
Nice.
Sega Rally, Virtua Fighter 2, just as some examples. There's a lot of Sega in mine. A lot.
Quite rightly.
I think mine's all Sega, but why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, go and do that, guys. So wrapping up little news section now, talk about some blog posts. So I don't know what spurred this on, but there was a unofficial fan meetup in YOKOSUKA, sort of like a Japanese fan event that happened there maybe last week, time of recording. Very, very recently anyway, and Switch has done a very detailed blog post there where you can find loads of photographs, just see how their day actually spanned throughout heading to, restaurants and bars and the harbour area and stuff like that, just looking around Dobuta Street, and just, I'm sure it would have been amazing. I can see Dimitri from Nagai Industries there, Switch, of course, in the photograph there. You've got friend of Shenmue World, Eren and Aru, if anyone remembers them from, I think they were both in issue 1 actually. And and a few other awesome Japanese fans I've yet to have the pleasure of speaking to. It's actually a former Sega AM2 arcade game developer was there in attendance.
Oh, wow.
And also a bug tester for the first 2 Shenmue games as well. So just looks like it would have been amazing meetup to have gone. But you can read all about that on Switch's blog post. Links, of course, are in the show notes and description of the YouTube video here below. And we're going to move into Hiki's blog posts. I don't know if you've spotted this, but if you go on the Shenmue Dojo website, there's a tab or whatever, a word at the top there that you can click on that actually says blog. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but Hiki does monthly blog posts for us. The latest one she did it's basically titled Shenmue 2024. It sort of details what's happened from 2019 all the way to 2014 and what she thinks is going to happen in 2024. And one that I will make a note of, because I don't think we mentioned it in a previous show, Matt, but you actually did a video on this. It was her take on what a Shenmue standalone fighting game might look like, with like a character roster and all that sort of stuff. Ooh. Really cool read.
Yeah, that was it. Well, I completely ripped the idea off in terms of the video from Hiki's blog post, in fairness. And just,
inspired.
Yes, we'll use the word inspired and credit Hiki for that, because it just sort of went on and gave me an idea for a video. And the blog posts are I think they're becoming more well known now, actually, and I think as time's gone on, Hiki's covering some very interesting topics, so I'm looking forward to see what she's got planned in the coming year. Hopefully talk about Shenmue 4 in that, fingers crossed.
Would be nice. Stu, any more Shenmusing blog posts in the works?
There's a lot in the pipeline. I haven't had a lot of time lately, but there are a lot that I want to do, but it's just a case of like actually sitting down and writing them. But I do want to get back into writing posts for the Shenmusings blog again, and also updating the Shenmue 2 Game Jam page as well, because there's still a few little bits and pieces I want to cover about that prototype. So it's just a case of me actually finding the time and energy to to get these out of my brain. But there will be more content coming, I promise.
Good stuff, yeah, fair enough. And you can find all the links to Stu's stuff again below. And that sort of wraps up the news, guys. So quite a hefty chunk there, actually, to start off for January. Fresh start to the new year there with loads of like fun projects and stuff. We're going to have a music break now. So I came up with like a little fun idea. It probably is a really convoluted way of doing this, but basically what I've done for these music breaks, we're going to have a few little music breaks throughout. first one is going to be a Shenmue 1 music break, and I asked Stu and Matt, and obviously myself, to pick a piece of music from Shenmue 1, and then I sent, well, I didn't, but everyone sent their picks to Jibby, who's sort of like our, whatever the word is, adjudicator. What's the word? Adjudicator, that was it.
Yeah, something like that.
Is it? Something like that, adjudicator. To sort of oversee everyone's song picks. And then he sent me the list back, and I don't know who's picked what, apart from myself. And then I've put the songs into a poll, and then we've all voted on a poll. And then any picks here that ended up being a sort of a draw, I sent back to Jibby, and Jibby made the deciding vote. So, like I say, very convoluted. Probably could have just picked a song each, and it would have been a lot easier. But for the first vote, again, I don't know who picked these songs, but we had Spider, Shenmue's theme, and Separated from YOKOSUKA. And the one that had the most votes was Separated from YOKOSUKA, which was actually my pick. So who picked Spider?
That was me.
You picked Spider, okay. So Matt had Shenmue's theme.
I did.
Okay, very good, guys. So yeah, you voted for mine. We're going to play it now. This is Separated from YOKOSUKA. Welcome back. That was Separated from YOKOSUKA from Shenmue 1. Main discussion time now. So if everyone can load up the YouTube video if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm looking forward to this.
Wish it wouldn't autoplay, bastard.
Oh, I know. It does that. It's annoying.
Horrible. Right, guys, so we're going to get stuck into the main discussion topic for today. So, that, again, this is your Suzuki Shenmue Postmortem GDC 2014, that iconic event that got all our hopes up, thinking that he was going to announce Shenmue 3 at the end of it, and obviously it didn't. And we were like, okay, so what's happening with Shenmue 3? And we sort of, we found out a year later, didn't we? But at the time, this was kind of like exciting and depressing in the same sort of, we didn't really know how to fine-tune our emotions at this point of the Shenmue fans' life. But what we're going to plan to do is watch up until the Q&A, and then I've actually got the questions and answers written down for the Q&A just so we can speed through that a little bit quicker.
Yep.
Beautiful.
We've got timestamps that we're going to abide to, and we may discuss stuff during the period of time, but just be mindful, guys, listening. We may not say anything, just so you can actually listen to the GDC at the same sort of time. Mark Cerny is the guy that's in charge here. You may know him from like working on various PlayStation and Sony products and stuff like that he's done over the years. Used to work at Sega, big friends with YOKOSUKA, never ages, but he's also multilingual, and he's the guy that's translating YOKOSUKA. I think there's a lady later for the Q&A, but Mark Cerny is actually translating for the audience, and he's going to be translating for you listeners out there if you've not seen or heard this GDC press conference topic discussion before. Basically, it's Yu Suzuki discussing how he created Shenmue, essentially. So yeah, very interesting stuff. And we're going to get started when you guys are ready to press play. Yeah, in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, good morning. So that was some excitement. We lost our backup computer yesterday. Suzuki-san dropped it, and we lost our main computer yesterday, and our backup computer refused to boot. But we're okay now. So anyway,
Suzuki dropped a computer.
I'm here to introduce Yu Suzuki's talk. He's got a very special session prepared for you today. He'll be talking about the creation of Shenmue for the first time ever. And as the talk is full of hardware specs, kung fu styles, and details from the game, I'll be helping out from the translation booth. A couple notes before we get going. Anything that makes a noise, cell phones and so on, please turn it off. And I guess, please, that's it. Please join me in welcoming Suzuki-san.
Make sure your phone's on silent, guys.
Thank you for coming today. Let's start.
Starts with the trailer, I think.
Father!
Yeah.
Stay back, mule.
For the last time, where is the mirror?
I will have my revenge.
Let me invite you to hell.
This area been getting rather dangerous recently.
Would you like something to eat?
I'll give it a try.
I love this trailer.
This is a cool trailer.
Step forward, step again. Then
I think it's the trailer that I remember that music from, to be honest.
Touch her.
Instantaneous judgments will affect your fate.
So you know about Landy. Just who the hell is he?
Every experience will differ from another.
I'll only tell you if you prove stronger than me.
Vast area, enormous number of characters.
If Landy gets that mirror, no one can stop him.
Is this a game?
Father! Keep friends. Those you love.
An emergence of a true, fully interactive game. Step into another reality.
Whenever this trailer came out, like 1999, bloody hell, the graphics and stuff.
I know,
the
it was
hype.
mind blowing, wasn't it?
Shenmue.
Yeah, just incredible.
Yeah, cracking trailer that.
こんにちは、鈴木優です。今日はシェンムーの開発について話したいと思います。短い時間ですがよろしくお願いします。私は83年にセガに入社してから アーケードゲームを重点的に開発してきました。
So this is like a history of Yu Suzuki quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still at it now.
I know.
アーケードゲームの平均のプレイ時間が理想が3分で、3分の中にゲームのエッセンスを凝縮します。次に開発するタイトルが時間制限のないコンシューマーで考えていました。
See, I find that interesting just how much the idea of games has changed. Like,
I know.
you had those constraints back then, now.
アドベンチャーゲームの経験しかなくて、90年代の RPG のリサーチを始めました。80年代の懐かしいゲームがあそこに出てると思いますけど、この頃のゲームは懐かしいですね。とても夢がありました。
I think I remember him talking about Ultima before. It was
I
like a
do,
bit of an
yeah.
inspiration.
改めてプレイチェックをしてみると、壁の前でスタックしても歩きのモーションが止まらなかったり、NPC の方を向かないと話ができなかったり、すぐに不満や疑問が出てきました。こんな不満が次のゲームの改善点
Pioneer.
And it's only someone like him that would notice and actually address these things as well. It's just crazy.
I know.
早速、サタンを使って RPG の基礎研究に入りました。タイトルは桃のじいさんと言いまして、フル 3D で
This is 1995.
Yeah, mental.
これらの負荷テスト、キャラクターコントロール、キャメラ、イベント、クエスト、会話システムの実験などを行いました。この基礎研究でのプロットの一部を紹介します。憲法の達人らしき風格の男がひなたぼっこをしています。
I'd actually forgotten it was set in Liu Yang. That's interesting.
That is an interesting point. Makes you wonder if there is like any plans for this.
Mm-hmm.
Still in Liu Yang.
Possibly.
You know, like a master.
I mean, yeah, just imagine in the Shenmue 4 or 5 if you ended up in this exact scenario. That would be crazy.
It wouldn't shock me, you know, if they did something like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
老人の周りで子供たちが歓声を上げています。太郎はそっと近づく。ストーリーイベント開始。老人は石を投げ水切りをしている。老人の投げた石が水面に当たるたびに魚に命中する。魚が腹を向けて水面に浮く。子供たちは夕飯のおかずをゲットして喜んでいる。1個の石で2、3匹に命中する。常人離れした光景を目撃した太郎は、その老人が竜老子であると確信する。ストーリーはこんな感じです。これがシェンムーの大元の基礎研究になりますね。
1996 now.
Virtua Fighter RPG.
具体的な企画構成に入りました。バーチャファイターのエンジンを使用したフル 3D の RPG で、マルチバトルが可能です。特徴は、 フル 3D でフルサイズの RPG。フルボイスでキャラクターのリアリティを上げます。シネマティックなアプローチでプレイヤーの感情移入度を上げます。複数対戦型バトルを可能にします。バーチャファイターの IP を使用して格闘エンジンとモーションを活用します。
Even for 1996, the ambition here is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, no one else was thinking like this back then.
I mean, from what we've seen of the Saturn prototype, it's just insane.
Yeah.
There was talk that was
they basically made it.
Yeah, it was pretty well done by the looks of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's the timestamp, by the way, guys. So, anything you want to talk about so far, guys? I mean, obviously, Yu Suzuki's early career there with the arcade machines. Anyone that is viewing this footage on YouTube will have seen all of the just insane cabinets that Yu Suzuki used to make. Full motion sort of outrun cabinet and space area. All the classics, of course. And it's just so much to Yu Suzuki's career that kind of gets a little bit forgotten about these days. Everyone's just Shenmue. And people forget some of the amazing, incredible games that he made back in the day that pioneered the business overall, to be honest. A lot of what Yu Suzuki did back in those days, we're talking about inspiration. Yu Suzuki's inspired so many developers over the years.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of what we've got today is in part due to thanks to Yu Suzuki, and that's not just because we're Shenmue fans bigging him up. That is like literal facts.
Yeah, I mean, it is, isn't it?
No, it's literally true. Yeah.
It's very true. You look at the way this is just sort of an observation. When you look at the games that he's worked on and created, the arcade cabinets, which it staggers me that every year from like 1984, a new game. And now I know arcade games are technically, they're shorter, so they're easier to produce, but he's producing the cabinets alongside it. So it's amazing that they've done that in that era. What a game every year. But what staggers me with those early 80s arcade games is he's thinking about them as an experience, not just a quick 3-minute bam, take your money and leave. He's thinking about an experience, like the moving cabinets, the outrun cabinet. You have the music behind you, you know, the gear stick, all those sorts of things that weren't commonly done, if at all, back then. It's not just a game; it's an experience, and then that feeds into, obviously we'll talk about Shenmue later on, but that principle of a game being an experience that you don't forget, that goes with you, goes into Shenmue.
Yeah.
And
it's like Yu Suzuki's mantra, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's I mean, I say this with the greatest respect to modern gamers, it's an absolute travesty that Yu Suzuki is not more respected in modern gaming, because he pioneered so much, and it's ridiculous that with the greatest respect to some of the other developers out there, that Yu Suzuki is not kept or held in that high regard, because Shenmue is a divisive title in gaming, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. But the thought process is here, and I think how ahead of the curve he is and was mad.
Moving through the slides then, obviously he talks about his inspiration there. He's played these old PC classic RPGs, almost like Ultima and stuff like that. I've never played those games, to be honest, so I don't really know if anything was taken from that you can see like Shenmue elements, but I'm sure it's just like sort of laying the groundwork up until Shenmue was formed in his head, and whatever he was doing there, it's just gradually showing the progression here. He's gone from those RPGs of old to his sort of take on that style, trying to perfect that with what he had plans to do with the Old Man and the Peach Tree, which we sort of saw a little bit about there. And there is even, like you mentioned there, Stu, some sort of Shenmue ties there. We know Liu Wang's mentioned here, and obviously Liu Wang appears to be a major plot point in the future of the Shenmue series. I'm not sure if it's been retconned or it's still going to be a thing, but at one point it was going to be a hefty part of something that's going to be exciting to actually get to at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, I'd totally forgotten that little detail, to be honest, that the Old Man and the Peach Tree was set in Liu Yang. So yeah, I mean, it just goes to show like he obviously had this idea for like this epic set in China like in his head for like quite a long time, and then it took a while to come to fruition. But yeah, I mean, as you say, Matt, like he absolutely deserves to be recognised more for like his contributions to gaming, and just the fact that his understanding of like what an arcade game needs to be, like it's just so dead on. Like he completely understood the constraints of an arcade game, but like how he could work that to his advantage as well. I mean, hang on, as an example, I mean, my uncle, who used to be really into his motorbikes, like he knew Hang On, and like that was a game like he really enjoyed playing, and otherwise he wasn't really into gaming. Just the fact that that grabbed him like as an experience just speaks to Yu Suzuki's talent, and I mean Outrun as well, which I'm sure you'll attest to, James, because when we all went to the EGX Expo in London, going back a few months ago now, you were just drawn to that Outrun machine that was there, like as were a few other people, and yeah, as I remember, you spent quite a lot of the evening just hammering away at that, and
me and Paddy.
yeah,
It captures like even in 2024, whatever we know, playing a game that was made in 1986.
yeah,
You're seeing the cabinet, and obviously, if you can actually play one of the original Outrun cabinets in
yeah,
good working condition, just the motion of the cabinet, the way it sways and turns and
yeah,
lifts, and sort of, it just feels incredible as an experience.
yeah,
And like Matt was saying, like Yu Suzuki, that is his mantra. It's like he creates a game that is an experience, a memorable experience for a player. It's not just like here's another third person shooter that we're pumping out for money
no,
kind of things. Yu Suzuki, I don't know, maybe he is business minded, but he strikes me as someone that hasn't really gone out of his way to turn a profit. He's gone for
no,
like the art form, the experience of the game, creating a lasting experience of that as well in the people that plays games. He tries to do new things, he tries to break boundaries, and tries to discover things that he can do that make his games unique. And all of the games that he's worked on stand the test of time,
Yeah,
in my
agreed.
opinion,
Yeah.
because of that. They're not forgettable. Maybe there might be one or two maybe in there that are forgettable to some people, but the majority of them are instant hits, instant classics, and I think what he contributes to the gaming industry with how he's designed experience. I know he's not like very lucrative in pumping out games at the moment, but back in his heyday he was, and definitely definitely made the industry what it is today.
He did, and I think he was given the platform to do it. And I think with the arcades being hot at the time as well, it was almost like a perfect storm that he could try these innovative ideas and actually turn good money into it as well, and therefore got his reputation of being this pioneer, but obviously made Sega a lot of money, made them some very reputable IP that still exists even to this day. So I think he was given a platform. There's obviously an element of luck to anything like this, because there were several attempts over the years to try new things with arcade games. Like, for example, Virtua Racing was the one that broke 3D racing, but there were games that tried it before. I think Namco did. I can't remember the name of the title, but Namco tried one before.
Yeah, hard driving one tip.
And it didn't quite work. And then Yu Suzuki said, look, they did it first, but they gave me the idea to then sort of what I need to do to perfect it. So there is an element of luck to it. But when you've, I think, had the history that you had, or you almost make your own luck to some regards as well. And yeah, it's mad. I think arcade games, I know there's this whole modern gamer era of dollar per hour bollocks. But it does my head in, because actually I've had just as much fun playing an old school arcade game like Outrun, Crazy Taxi, if we're going like towards the Dreamcast era, and spent just as many hours playing something like that as I have done playing like Spider-Man 2, for example.
Yeah, I mean, even Air Twister, the like attempts to recapture that experience. Like when I was playing it, it's like, oh my god, this is what games used to be. Like, just the whole gameplay loop of like, you you play it, you get so far, and then it's like, okay, I'll get further next time because I'm able to upgrade and get more health. But it's not. It doesn't feel repetitive. Like you're quite happy to like go again. Like I went through a time where I was like, oh, just one more go, just one more go.
Yeah, that's
And
it, though, isn't it?
that is the factor that's sort of lacking in modern gaming these days. And when I realised that I was experiencing that, I was like, oh my God, like this is what we've been missing. And like, I mean, even as relatively recent as like the Dreamcast era with like something like Crazy Taxi, where it was just, oh, just one more go, I can do better next time. And honestly, I feel like Air Twister just felt almost like it could have been released on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's just that sort of game. Like comparatively to like the typical games of the modern day, there isn't that much content in there. It's about the gameplay loop and just how the game feels really good to play. And I probably can't really express it properly or like as well as like someone else might be able to. But yeah, it just absolutely recaptured that feeling for me and just reminded me like, oh yeah, this is how gaming used to be. And like, of course it came from someone like Yu Suzuki. I mean, who else? It's just amazing.
Well, Matt made an interesting point when he was saying like $1 per hour is like the mentality these days. Well, arcade machines, when you think about it, are $1 a minute, aren't they? Basically, you put $1 in an arcade machine.
Let's not romanticize it. They were designed to like, pump as much money from you as possible.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Yu Suzuki like understood how to design that sort of game. It's like you need to convey what the game is in like a really short amount of time. And like, yeah, of course he probably designed them like to make a profit. They're all arcade games were probably designed like that, weren't they? Like there'd be a sudden like difficulty spike at a certain point where it's like, but I want to see what the next stage is. I want to see what the ending is. So you keep pumping it in.
You never came off the machine thinking like, oh, for God's sake, I've just wasted a pound or whatever of my money. I'm off feeling like that was a great pound per minute experience.
Exactly. You never felt like that. And I mean, I think this was a couple of years ago now, but I stumbled upon a Virtua Fighter 2 machine while I was on holiday in this arcade that had loads of old games. And there is a difficulty spike when you get to a certain stage. Like it just becomes like absolute bullshit, and it's designed to just take money from you. But I didn't feel pissed off. I was like, yeah, that was like a really good nostalgia rush for me. And like this game still looks incredible it was 2022. And it still looks incredible in 2024, to be honest, like nearly 30 years after it came out. And when you know a bit more of the story behind it as well, that it was inspired by his visit to China, yeah, it just adds so much to it. And like, I'm sorry, I'm probably just gushing and like rambling.
No, for sure though. But we will get into like I think the next bit is about his research trip to China, and that is something that I loved learning about. I know I did those lore episodes where we sort of looked at the places that he visited and the places that are set in Shenmue. We're going to get into the chapter titles a little bit later as well, that are sort of just show you actually where Shenmue's story takes place, which is it's just amazing to read that. I would urge anyone who has yet to read about Yu Suzuki's research trip to China, because it's sort of setting the way for what he's talking about here when he's talking about the old man and the peach tree set in China. He must have visited Liyuan, Virtua Fighter RPG, and everything beyond that into Shenmue. Is like his experiences of his trip to China left such an everlasting sort of effect on him that it created these ideas in his head basically just by being in a different country with a different culture and different environment that is sort of alien to his own. It's a great source of inspiration. And before we move on into the next part, has anyone got anything to say about the Virtua Fighter RPG aspect he was talking about there? I mean, you can kind of see his targets there. His list of targets are pretty much nailed on for what ended up becoming Shenmue as well.
Yeah, it's obviously, I think originally they wanted to sort of cash in on the Virtua Fighter name, which I think at the time was very big. I mean, you obviously had Virtua Fighter 1 had come out, Virtua Fighter 2 had come out, and sort of reset the era a little bit. I think Virtua Fighter 3 probably wasn't a million miles away at this point either, which is insane in 1996.
I could gush about that game for days and like how amazing it was for 1996. Yeah.
So that whole idea, I think, for them to cash in on Virtua Fighter and cash in on all that work that he'd done sort of back with Lockheed Martin back in the day when they did all the motion capture and all the rest of it, made absolute sense. And it made absolute sense to cash in on an IP that was well known and certainly had potential in it to move forward. I mean, it got an anime years later as well, didn't it?
Yep.
So
true.
They obviously had a lot of faith in it, but obviously we know it then sort of morphed into something else, which we'll come on to in the post-mortem, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That Shenmue Saturn footage we've seen, do you reckon that was what was called Virtua Fighter RPG? So if that had released, it would have been called Virtua Fighter RPG?
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced it was still Virtua Fighter RPG back then, yeah.
I'm fairly convinced as well that it would have been Virtua Fighter still at that point.
Interesting to think about.
I expect, I can't remember, but I mean, it's probably sort of touched upon later in the post-mortem, but just the transition from him doing like these quick, punchy arcade experiences to doing like a full-on RPG, like that is, it's still insane to me. And the fact that he just got it and was able to create something so groundbreaking when he'd just primarily worked on like short arcade experiences up to that point. And like, yeah, obviously a lot of that comes from the RPGs that he played back in the 80s. But yeah, I mean, to go from creating like such a different kind of game to such a, you know, more open, long-term experience, and to do it so well as well, like that is just completely insane to me. And it just feels like whatever he tries, like he just absolutely nails it like every time. Yeah, I would love to just get inside his brain and just see how it works, because it's just ever fascinating to me. And it's just absolutely incredible how you can go from making games like that to something like Shenmue. It's just bonkers to me.
You are right though, like a 3-minute game to like a 30-hour game. It's it's such a different sort of take. But let's crack on then, guys. So everyone back on 10:06, and I'll count this down again.
Okay.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, go. So this is the trip to China he's talking about now. So 93 this is.
Yep.
That guy who broke his ribs?
Yeah.
I think so.
Master Wulin Shu. It's the whole technique that they utilize in this Baji Quan, which is like the whole impetus of Shenmue, basically, isn't it? The Baji Quan reading and chins and stuff. I think it was because he was drunk, he actually hurt him.
And Suzu is basically what Niao is based on, right?
Sort of, isn't it?
Sort of,
Like,
yeah.
there's another place that he sort of compared Niao to, but Fanjing or something? I can't think off the top of my head.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the one.
この時の中国の取材のインプレッションがとても強くて、後のシェンムーのストーリーのベースとなりました。
This stuff's interesting now, guys.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
転結の4部構成でプロットを作成しました。起承転結を悲しみ、旅立ち、戦い、新たなる旅立ちとしてプロットを作成しました。喜、悲しみは父の死挫折。小、旅立ちは悲しみを乗り越えて中国へ。天、戦いは蘭亭との決戦、勝利。決、新たなる旅立ちは、目的をなくすアキラと友との旅立ちです。
That's the timestamp there, guys.
So I guess this suggests that if they're still following this, Ryo would defeat Landy but choose not to kill him.
It does sound that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Plot structure there, I mean, seemingly is following that thing because you've got the loss of father, setbacks, overcome grief, travel to China. That's happened. And then we've not reached this point yet, have we? There's like a chunk in the middle here that you sort of omitted that's like the training arc, the development. Well, I suppose the development he's covered there with the departure, but there's more to that. There's like beyond the departure, there's like the journey before the fight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's debatable, I suppose. I mean, plot lines change, but seemingly this is saying that Ryo's eventually going to beat Landy, be victorious, and then I suppose again the conclusion bit's a bit up for the debate. It could be what does it mean by he loses purpose and begins a new journey? Is that like because he's killed Landy and that was like the dark path, or was he victorious in a different way where ultimately like Landy's alive? He's like, wow, sort of like a Chun Yan thing where he stops her from dying, picks her up, even though he's just beat her, and she's a bit of a bastard by killing that bloke. And that's like what she does as Street Fighter, but she's actually realizes by Ryo saving Chun Yan, she realizes like, wow, thanks for saving me. You didn't have to, and it's sort of she's learning from that herself, kind of thing. And maybe it's a similar thing with Landy. I don't know.
I think that scene's going to end up being very important foreshadowing. To be honest, I have a feeling.
I do. I think this is also where the Shenmue story maybe gets lost a little bit in terms of people thinking it's a simple revenge tale, because obviously when we look at the chapter cards later on and what's talked about, defeating Randy in that time, Landy now is one element of a wider story that's going on there in terms of the journey and the development of Akira, now Ryo, as a character, as a man as well, and sort of he's going on his own journey to find out about what happened to his father, and there's bigger issues at play, which, not to go on to Shenmue 3 a little bit, but I think skewed some people's minds of Shenmue 3 that the whole idea was to take down Landy and that's the end of it. Taking down Landy is one part of Shenmue's story. It's a big part of Shenmue's story, and it doesn't need to be done in a 1-hour anime. It needs to be given time to bloody breathe. And then those other plot points come into it, and that sort of loss of purpose, I think, almost comes potentially after that defeat of Landy. Like, he hasn't got what he wants. He hasn't got, for whatever reason, he's pulled back on, we assume he's pulling back on revenge at this point. But then what gives him purpose again? How does he get his purposes again? And I think that's where the wider story of Shenmue then comes into its own potentially. Obviously, we don't know. I'm guessing, but that sounds like the way it was going, and hopefully still is in some respects. We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
I know you just mentioned Randy there, which, as far as I know, that is Landy. In Word, it's just like the R is like the closest sound to an L
Yeah,
in Japanese. So
yeah.
Randy. So it's literally name dropping him there in this
Yeah.
plot for Virtual Fighter RPG. So
Yeah, no, I think one important thing to bear in mind, like obviously I know that it changed from Virtua Fighter RPG to Shenmue, but I think one important thing to bear in mind, like obviously originally this was Akira's story, and from what I understand, this was meant to be a prequel. This was meant to be set before the Virtua Fighter games and
Yeah.
sort of go into Akira's backstory. So if you think of it like that, it's not going to be very likely that Akira would have killed someone and then he's just, the protagonist of the Virtua Fighter series. Like I feel like if he actually did kill Landy, that kind of would have tainted his character in Virtua Fighter a little bit. And I know Virtua Fighter doesn't really go very deep into like the storytelling and the lore and sort of the background behind its characters, but from what you can discern, Akira is sort of quite an honourable martial artist. It just doesn't seem feasible to me that he would have killed someone. And yeah, again, I know that Akira changed to Rio, but it seems to me like the basic structure of the story still remained the same. Even the fact that Landy is like literally name dropped there, and I feel like a lot of the story probably did remain the same, apart from Akira becoming Rio. And at the end of the day, I still think like at the end of the Shenmue story, like he is going to sort of become Akira in a sense, like in the sense that he'll probably be like a wandering martial artist, like always seeking to, sort of become stronger and find sort of peace within himself. So I think we just need to bear in mind like the Virtua Fighter roots of the series and the fact that the basic structure of the story probably hasn't changed very much. And if Ryo did kill Landy, that's not really a very satisfying conclusion when you consider like all of the setup that they've had with like Shu Ying teaching him patience and the futility of revenge. Like I personally wouldn't find that much of a payoff or very satisfying. And I apologize if we're going like off on a bit of a tangent here, but yeah, I've just never considered that to be the end goal of the story or the series. I've always been more intrigued by the wider mythology of the series. And I think, yeah, the idea is probably you're meant to think, oh, it's just a simple revenge story. But then as you play and uncover more, okay, it's more than that. So the fact that people still fixate on this idea of like it's all about just avenging his father's death is completely insane to me.
it's like they've not paid attention to like the details and the way that
exactly.
the story's actually trying to be told to the player. It's like they're just like, okay, father died, let's get this motherfucker Landy or whatever, and then I'm off to China now, this is where he is, let's go kill him. You know what I mean? It's like it's just constant. It's like, okay, why are we not killing him yet? There he is, he's on the helicopter. Oh, he's getting away, little bastard. Why aren't we killing him? You know what I mean? And then don't lose the fight there, and then it's like, oh, what's going on now? It's a 2-hour walk. It's boring, this is. And then Shenmue 3 happens all those years, and it's like, yes, it's finally time to kill Landy or whatever. And then if anyone that's been that of that mindset getting to the end of Shenmue 3, and then it's like, oh, this is the moment we're going to finally kill him. This is a trilogy that everyone's told me it was a trilogy, even though no one's mentioned the word trilogy ever. But and then he runs off again, and then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, don't get
now
me
time to
started
go on the
trilogy
internet.
thing.
I need to get on Reddit.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole other episode about it's not a fucking trilogy, okay? you can edit the swearing out like if you want, but it's not a fucking trilogy, okay? It's not. All right.
But it shows here he had these original intentions even in this early flowchart. So shall we carry on anyway, guys, a little bit more?
Yeah.
I think we should, yeah.
He did mention the little trip there, but I think we've covered that, or I've covered that anyway on my lore streams. And It's probably a topic for a future episode anyway. So let's continue from 1358.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, by the way? Because I just replayed the last little bit, sorry, just to stop it again. But with a friend, he said.
He did, didn't he?
Begins a new journey with a friend.
Interesting.
So, friend-wise here, we're probably thinking Shenmue, right? Because...
Yeah, because Ren's dead.
When we get to the chapter tiles, Ren stands out as a friend.
But he's dead.
But when you think about what Matt thinks and what the chapter tiles look likely to depict, the friend is probably Shenmue, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's Ren for the reasons that Matt said. But yeah, I expect we're getting to that. So
yeah, when you edit that in, Matt, you'll have to play it so it says with a friend, just to make so that sounds, you know what I mean?
Yeah, could work that
Otherwise, it's going to be like me just randomly stopping and talking about a friend from like half an hour ago. Sorry, guys, let's go. 3, 2, 1, go.
同じ構成で4楽章の組曲を作成しました。ライターに曲を聴かせてサブストーリーを発注し、ライターの自由な発想を引き出しました。次にゲームシナリオの制作に入りました。
That's an interesting way in it as well, making a story. Listen to music.
映画監督、演出家などとボーダーレスな開発体制の構築をしました。
Oh. We don't know who these screenwriters, movie directors, and playwrights are, do we?
No,
Not
but it
really,
ties
no.
into his end of year message, doesn't it?
True.
I know Steven Spielberg had a lot of involvement with Sega back in the day.
He did. There's photos of him.
I think he showed him Shenmue, right? I feel like I remember reading a story about him showing Shenmue, and he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Steven Spielberg was one of the movie directors that he mentions here.
Yeah.
You probably just can't just mention him by name.
Yeah. Just the fact he basically wrote a novel as well. That's
is insane, isn't it? And when you look at the script that he's got, it's a sizable novel.
Yeah.
Massive.
これが主人公のコンセプトアートですね。
Concept art of Akira.
And that design is very similar to the Saturn design of Akira or Rio.
バーチャファイターのアキラよりも若いアキラにしてあります。表情も豊かに描くために何種類かのテイクを考えました。 これ初公開みたいな感じですけど、小別に描いた実際のチャプターイメージになります。
Oh, here we go.
It's mad we got this 10 years ago.
Oh.
Absolute insane. And seeing some of these in high def that Adam Cipioni gave us is mental.
And then seeing the map version of it as well.
1章が横須賀ですから、2章から香港に渡って中国をこう回って、中国の各地とリンクしています。
Stop there, guys. I love that line. Mark Cerny says, "Your translator has failed you."
Yeah, it's quite funny.
So I do want to. We're going to come back to this after the GDC talk because this is like sort of probably going to be the main discussion topic next episode. But chapter tiles and the map image here, guys, just initial opinions and thoughts. I mean, obviously, we've learned a little bit since because we played Shenmue 3 and we know that Shenmue 3 essentially covers 2 of these chapter tiles. But just the first time you saw these chapter art tiles, and obviously they're in low resolution because this is 2014. It's probably what we on here, 1080p. We have got
720.
1080p, but I'm pretty sure the video probably wasn't 1080p.
Yeah.
It probably was 720. And obviously they're small anyway. They've been live streamed, so they've got even more compression.
Yeah.
So just picking out what you could see at the time, characters. The first two are very faithful to the first two games, aren't they?
They are.
And everything else was like, what is going on?
What the hell? Yeah.
If anyone wants to talk about any of them at all, go ahead.
Go on, Stuart.
I don't even know where to start. There's just so much, isn't there? And just the fact that this is basically the whole saga just laid out before our eyes. Like, it's just completely insane. And like, yeah, I mean, things probably have like chopped and changed and like moved around a little bit, but this, it's enlightening, but it's also frustrating at the same time. Like, I feel like we've got part of the whole picture, but we don't know the full context or like the full details. Like, it's just a very rough idea of the progression of the story. And I guess there are quite a lot of spoilers here. Like, if this does end up being, faithfully followed, we can see that it seems to end with, well, as you already mentioned, like Akira / Ryo going on a journey. And that last image, you can see Shenfar's there and Shu Ying's there. So we know that she's definitely going to return at some point. But then a lot of things just seem to have been mixed and matched and chopped around as well. Like, it's just hard to know where to begin, really, isn't it? And there's one where he seems to be carrying what might be Ren on the steps of the Forbidden City. Like, we're not totally sure on that. And there seems to be a bit where Ryo and Ren went on a train as well. That might happen, that might still happen, or that might have been completely skipped at this point. It's just, it's fascinating, but it's infuriating at the same time.
I think as well, this comes on to, again, we're going to cover these in a later episode. There's interviews since then that he talks about the chapter cards being almost interchangeable. So the stuff that didn't come in could well come back. And seeing those images for the first time, sort of going back to the original question, I mean, you sat there and your mind just goes boom. It's like, oh my God, like, how big is this journey going to be and how far is it going to reach? And again, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. The whole Shenmue story being just a simple revenge tale isn't what it is at all. It's this massive, massive journey. And I know Shenmue as a whole gets criticized for being very much taking too long to get things moving. But it's an epic, long journey. It's not just like in Shenmue 3, okay, granted, you can talk about the story execution all you want, but you were never going to finish a journey where we were. It made no sense based off of those chapter tiles, assuming most of that's still canon, still going to happen. Going even sort of further back into what was being said in earlier on, him talking about using screenwriters, etc., is exactly what he's talking about now in terms of his end of year message. So that just further, in my mind, I'm joining dots and I could be joining the wrong dots, but further solidifies in my mind that he's looking for a team or something around to make a good story. And hopefully that's for Shenmue 4, because if it is for Shenmue 4 and they get into the chapter tiles and all the rest of it, and you get this whole good script around it, we're going on a massive journey here with a lot to carry on. I mean, we've seen these chapter cards up to, I think, 6 or 7 in high res now. I think is it 7? Am I making that up?
7, yeah.
7.
No, you're right with 7. Yeah.
And there's things even in there that you can't make out off of this GDC presentation. Actually, in high def, you can. Like, for example, on chapter card 6, which is blatantly Niaowu, you can see like Shenhua in the sun, for example, and things like that you couldn't quite make it. You had an idea, but you couldn't make it out. And it's just mind blowing that all this stuff is to come. And and this grand idea of a massively long tale about a young person's hunt for revenge, but also a young person's growth. is wildly ambitious even now, but back then it was even like it was on another level ambitious.
Yeah, and we've barely scratched the surface of it as well. If you think about it, like we don't even seem to be that far into it, do we? It's just
Well, if you're going off games wise that we know, there's like 4 out of the 11 tiles covered, which leaves quick math there, but 7 tiles to go. So, we're not even halfway through the story in terms of that.
No.
I mean, we probably are in Yu Suzuki's mind at this point and how he wants to progress the story.
Yeah, and didn't he say that we're only 40%?
40%
of the
I
way,
think he
so
said,
that's probably about right.
Probably
just
is,
under
yeah.
halfway. Yeah.
But like Matt was saying with the screenwriter thing and tying that into the New Year message, I can kind of see that, because when you think about it, Shenmue 3 and the Kickstarter was to save Shenmue, wasn't it? And essentially Shenmue's back now. So Shenmue 3, it could have just been a means to bring the series back now, and he's looking to take what they learned from Shenmue 3 and that position that they're at and produce this continuation of an epic series with story driven. I mean, there's obviously a narrative there. They've done so much preparation in terms of just these chapter tiles alone, but then talking about getting the movie directors in, screenwriters originally, turning each chapter into almost like a novel. That the game is based off of a story, so to have no story in Shenmue 3 was, well, some story in Shenmue 3, a little bit of story in Shenmue 3, was surprising actually to a Shenmue player who had played the first 2 games and knows how much story is in them, and then after seeing this GDC, realizing how much more story is yet to come. I mean, even at the end of Shenmue 2, I knew we were nowhere near finishing the series. It felt like there was a long way to go, even without knowing that there was a long way to go. But now knowing that there's a long way to go and seeing a Shenmue 3 and it didn't really progress too much, like I say, that was surprising. But it doesn't stop the future of the series from filling that long way to go aspect again and catching back up to where we sort of left off.
And I always felt like, even back then playing it for the first time, I always felt like the end of Shenmue 2 was like, okay, this is where the story and the mythology actually gets going. Like, this is where we find out more about the bigger picture, just with the mirrors and just kind of everything. Really, I was like, okay, this is where the story actually begins properly. So to then have to wait nearly 20 years to even get like a scrap of story progression was just, well, as you guys know, just painful.
Yeah, and I get that. I get the frustration with it. I really do. I get that. I get why people were a bit miffed in that regard in terms of the story execution, because we've had all this. It comes into us building it up and seeing the chapter tiles and having all this time behind it. And I'm not going to go into developing Shenmue 3. We've done it to death. We know what happened with it. It's in the books, and we need to shut up and move on from it. But I can get that point, and it's just, it's sad in some respects.
You said it before, Matt, haven't you? Where it's like Shenmue 3 walked, so Shenmue 4 can run. Perhaps not in that same sort of thing, but yeah.
The concept you're talking about is right there, and I think it's very much like Shenmue 1 sort of got moving so Shenmue 2 could take it on. Because if you look at
I think it's the same thing.
The idea being here that Shenmue 3 essentially establishes the foundations for Shenmue 4 to come out there and smash a home run. Hopefully, if it's given the opportunity to do it and they can find budgets, etc., to do it. And I think it's incredibly sad that it hasn't been given, and I understand business and all the rest of it, and especially in the gaming climates now, where it's very much about balancing the books and not being creative. But I think if it was given the proper opportunity to evolve, I think the way he would like to have done back then, you'd have got a story spanning well over 120 hours, in my opinion, which would have been rich in content, rich in detail. And I think it would have been something really insane. But obviously that's not the situation we're in now. And I think compromises will have to be reached. But seeing no chapter cards, even now, I get excited. So back then it was like Shenmue porn,
It is true, Matt.
I think just without the payoff at the end, yeah.
Not the payoff of porn.
Oh dear.
Cop watching us. Just in the instance of time, or whatever the phrase is, just quickly touching upon the map image now. So if you move along from the chapter tiles to the sort of map image, how they're all spread across, that alone shows you the scale of the journey that Ryo's on, because it's not just confined to Hong Kong or Japan. It's like the whole of China, and even some part of Mongolia there, which is part of China, but it's like the sort of top left or whatever that aspect is. It's just insane, really. And we know with Shenmue, it's not just Fade to Black, Ryo's in the next location. It's like the journey with the boat trips. He's meant to go on a train. You know what I mean? So if we actually see the instances of travel between these destinations as well, that just adds even more to the epic journey that Ryo is on. So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Has there actually ever been any other game series that does this, where it's an ongoing journey and it's not just a sequel for sequel's sake?
I mean,
I don't think there is.
I'd be hard pressed to think of a game series that is in order, if you know what I mean. Like you don't have to play the first two games to understand the third game, for example. Whereas like Shenmue, and to its own detriment, you kind of need to have played the first two games to understand the third. I know you don't have to. In a way, you can catch up if you want to, or if you do extra homework, I suppose, to sort of figure out what went on before. But in terms of a journey, an ongoing journey, there isn't really a necessary start and an end. There's like a start and a continuation until you get to the end. That alone is why the series is special to me and epic, for that particular reason, that he had plans to create a game per chapter almost. So like 11 games. And I've said this before, like picking up an item in the first game and carrying it over in a save file, the original intention, all the way to the final game, is just mind-blowing. To step on that stool, get the mysterious scroll out the dojo in Shenmue 1, and perhaps not learn what the move is depicted on the scroll until the final game. It's been in your inventory that long. Or the white leaf, for example, we might not find out what the white leaf is until the last game in the series. The thought of that alone, back then, ignore the fact that it has been 20 years between games as well, it's just insane that that's still in Ryo's inventory at the end of Shenmue 3. It's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And I just hope that we do get a continuation of the series, because we are sort of in that period of time of concern, I suppose, again, but at lengths. Let's have a breather, guys, because otherwise it's going to take ages to get through. So I'm going to have the music break now. So again, back to the picks that we all did. This is the Shenmue 2 music break now. Actually, we were all even on this. So Waves of Morning Haze, someone picked, had a vote. Dayuan Apartments had a vote. And Idle Seasons had a vote. So this had to go to our adjudicator, Jibby, who he picked the song Idle Seasons. Whose
very good.
Was that?
That was me.
Ooh, well done, Stu. So one for me, one for you. Let's see if Matt wins in the Shenmue 3 music break. But yeah, so this is Idle Seasons. welcome back. That was Idle Seasons from Shenmue Dojo. Greeling piece of music there. So let's continue where we left off, guys. We're moving into 1713. Hopefully it's where you are.
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
97年、それまでサターンをベースに進めていた開発を次世代機に変更しました。これが当時の企画書になります。
Oh, they did mention the code name was Guppy in this. Okay.
次世代サターンと表記されています。
Do you think he made the decision for the Dreamcast or Sega?
Probably a joint decision, I would think.
He just said he made the decision, but he did have a lot of power back then, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened to Sonic Adventure, didn't it? That was originally a Saturn game. Again, that might have been a Sega decision or it might have been a Sonic Team decision.
So this is like insane where they talk about the hour breakdown here.
Yeah.
Like a 45-hour game.
45-hour overall.
Yeah.
You get more than 45 hours now, I tell you.
憲法の物語なので技の伝授、訓練に4時間。森や地下のダンジョンに4時間。
See, I'm wondering what's meant by dungeons, whether that means stuff like the Yellowhead building or...
I think so, yeah. It does sound like it fits the idea.
Forests and underground dungeons, he said.
Yeah.
4 hours of travel. And that alone, that interconnection aspect he said there, 4 hours. Obviously, there hasn't been 4 hours worth of travelling yet. So that kind of covers like the boat chapter or the train.
I was going to say, yeah. So I guess originally we would have played the boat bits or the train bits and...
Yeah.
ですからこれ実際のドリームキャストとは違うそのこれは私の予測でしたから。
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone knows how different this is from the final specs.
I'd have to look. I don't think it's massively far away.
It's crazy he designed the game based on the specs that he predicted, though. Got Peter Berkeley.
That's crazy, though. 1998.
I'd love to know where these code names come from.
1998 is a year away from release, and he's changed it.
Yeah, so it was Akira then, in 98, until this moment.
I mean, that's actually mental. Like, it changed to Shenmue like only like a year before it came out.
I mean, we know that obviously Shenmue covers the game. Shenmue 2 covers several tiles, etc. So several tiles. So it's obviously not quite one for one.
コンセプトはゆったりたっぷりしっとり。メインフィーチャーは4つ。オープンワールドシネマティック QTE フリーバトルです。一つ目のキーワードはオープンワールド。ワンテーマの追求ではなくて、遊びを自由に選択できるようにしたいと思ってました。そのために広大な街サブストーリー、 サブクエスト、ミニゲームなどが必要になってきます。
So you can kind of see as he's developing the game, he's coming up with
Yeah.
more ideas, and it's getting bigger and bigger.
十分な会話も用意しました。
So it probably was intended to be a 45-hour game,
And then it just went mental.
and it just went mental, yeah. I mean, we love the open world aspect to Shenmue, and the fact that it's gone on to make all this open world stuff a staple in gaming. But if he hadn't, we would have had the story by now. And Assassin's Creed would still be only 9-hour games.
ゲームシーンのクオリティを上げ、ムービーシーンとの差をなくすこと。
That was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I know Metal Gear Solid used its own model in cutscenes as well.
Yeah.
It actually blew me away the first time I realised that the cutscenes were in-game.
Yeah, because before that, I always shifted to like FMVs or whatever, didn't it? It was
like the first time I saw someone mod in a character model in a cutscene, I was like, how is he doing that in a cutscene?
タイミングゲームが苦手なゲームプレイヤーでも遊べる分かりやすいシステムです。このシステムは失敗の回数で難易度を自動調整し、広いユーザー層に適用させることを目的としています。
He obviously thought we were very good at QTEs by Shenmue 3 then.
True. I like how he's designed this presentation.
バーチャファイターが1対1ですから、もっと自由度を上げたかったんですね。対戦相手や技をストレスなく選択して、バトルの爽快感を確保すること。導入ムービー、QTE、エンディングムービーとのシームレスな切り替えを可能にすること。フリーバトルの中の自動カメラ追尾や、これらの質を上げることを目標としてました。
You think how they've like integrated all of these styles into a seamless experience, and then maybe the movie directors for the camera.
It's very clever how they've done it and how it all sort of links together. I think one criticism of the VF engine was that in multi-man battles, sometimes the camera screwed you over. But I mean, given the time and everything, I think it's still, it's an excellent system. In 1v1 battles, it's superb.
Oh, just stop a sec, guys. This was my timestamp.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to elaborate on that point a little bit more, Matt? Now we've paused it.
Yeah, so sort of talking about the fighting engine. Obviously, they've talked about there wanting the camera sort of freely work with the engine, so you can engage in multi-man battles, select characters that you're going up against freely. And I think broadly it does work very well. But I do think there's criticisms of the Virtua Fighter engine in Shenmue 3 in that in some areas, in multi-man battles, the camera doesn't lend itself particularly well to giving you the full field of view that you need to take people on. And I know the fighting engine has its issues, but that's probably one thing it does better than the originals is the multi-man battles, the ability to lock onto a character fairly easily and have the view of what's going on around you, probably better than the VF engine. But as I said, I think at the time it was the ambition behind it was obviously massive, and the engine itself works incredibly well. And I think they perfected it a little bit in Shenmue 2 with some of the larger scale battles that you ended up in. I think it felt a bit more solid, a bit more responsive than in Shenmue 1. But that's natural when you've had that development time and then you apply what you've learned to the second installment. It makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you think of how they adapted the camera and stuff like that, some of the cutscene cinematography that they managed to do in these original games, just to me, they still look on the same sort of a level as movie direction, and that's kind of what how he sort of mentioned that early on with getting the movie directors in to sort of oversee some of that. I'm sure I think he does talk a little bit later about like some of the camera techniques that they use, but like just that dolly pan and these sort of things that as a probably like a pure game developer, you don't really have that background in media or whatever it would have taken to study to understand the way that camera works. But to be able to adapt that into a game like Shenmue and get those sort of cutscenes and those cinematic epic moments like the pan and Guilin where the eagle and Rio's doing the Tai Chi on the mountain, it's still incredible to see today. And I just think how they've integrated everything into one title there. He's mentioned his 4 keywords was free battle, QTE, open world and cinematic. When you see those 4, how he's presented them, they just work together. They all come together so well to create this experience. One bit doesn't feel out of place, does it?
No.
You go seamlessly from a free battle to a QTE to then being able to explore the area that you sort of presented with from that point onwards. And the cutscenes with the cinematography. So all 4 of those points he mentioned there just work together. So while it's not like the QT is completely different to the free battle, it's like it's worked so well. And sometimes he actually has like a QTE before the fight, so or the other way around, like the Donu fight where you beat Donu, but you've not beat him until you pass the 3 QTs where he runs at you, and and then. In fact, that is probably a good use of all 4 of those. So the open world aspect, you've climbed all 40 floors of this building in Kowloon.
Yeah.
Then you've got the free battle with Donu. Then you've got the QT moments, and then you've got the epic cinematography that completes that scenario, that set piece where Landy flies off and heads to Bailu Village, wherever he's off to next. And it's just it's hard to put that into a game, I think, in 1999, 2000, but Yu Suzuki did it.
And I think that's exactly right, James. And I hadn't really thought about before how that whole Donu fight is just a culmination of like all of those things. But it absolutely is. And again, not something I'd thought about before, but the fact, I mean, technically, I suppose the game does shift like genres or play styles like quite a lot, but it's not jarring. Like you don't really think about it when you're playing it. And, I remember playing through Shenmue 2 for, probably like the 700th time, but my partner was like watching me play it, the Yellowhead sequence and like climbing up to the roof and then the battle and then the QTE, and like he was like, bloody hell, this game's epic, isn't it? And the fact that can elicit such a reaction from someone, a game from 2001, and this was like 15 odd years later, like it's just,
you need someone to walk into the room at that moment.
Otherwise
they're just watching you open capsule toys and walk around and ask questions. But if they walk in the room at that moment, bloody hell, mate, this game's epic.
And I think that's when he probably understood like why I'm so obsessed with this series and why I bang on about it so much. So I'm quite grateful for that he walks in at that moment, because it's like, okay, you get it now, you understand, and just that whole sequence still gives me goosebumps like to this day. Like it's just incredible and just a culmination of like everything you've played like up to that point.
For sure, man. Right, let's watch the last little segment now. So this last bit is on data compression and complications. We're going to go all the way through to the end of this talk now. So,
Okay.
Brilliant.
必要になります。
some interesting stuff in this.
だと CD ロムが50枚から60枚のゲームになってしまうことになります。50枚組で発売するわけにいかないので、
That's crazy, isn't it? I'd have liked to seen it.
いろいろなデータ圧縮に取り組みます。マジックメイズです。
And all this was new as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
枝、葉っぱのデータを複数用意して、環境パラメーターから木のバリエーションを自動再生します。木の種類、樹齢、日当たり、風向きなどがパラメータになります。
Insane. This was talked about in the Kickstarter, wasn't it? They wanted the magic maze.
これによって、
11 mil, was it?
可能にしました。
Or 10 million, something like that.
これが自動生成しているメイズになります。
It hides this fact very well, though, doesn't it? Like it's being created on the fly, because when you're playing it, you just think it's one long path.
Yeah, you wouldn't pick up on it at all.
フィールドを作ってもほとんどデータ量変わらないです。 次はマジックルームになります。 今は取り壊されてしまったんですが、香港に空論城っていうのがありました。 ここのビルディングの部屋に、ここの部屋に全部入りたいと思ったのがきっかけです。 ビルはユニット工法でデータ圧縮しました。 部屋、廊下、分岐、ドア、窓などのユニットに分けました。 次はマジックルームです。
And this is probably like the most useless part of Shenmue 2, like the amount of rooms and stuff that you can just enter, but the fact that they did it.
Yeah.
This magic room stuff.
キッチン、小物などのデータを持って AI が部屋の形に合わせて自動生成します。
And it's mental that they rendered that in real time, in game. As you open that door, it's there. Back then, it's mental.
It's like AI it is today.
Yeah.
How you can create an image just out of a thought. It's like it's thinking, what's the room going to look like? And makes it.
時間や天候をプログラマブルにコントロールするウェザーシステムです。 時間変化による太陽光の変化、雨や雪は計算で表現します。 計算により天候表現を可能にしたので、高データ圧縮が実現しました。 シェンムーの物語は86年の日本の横須賀っていうところになります。 86年から3年分の横須賀のデータを気象台から入手して天候を再現しています。 これ雪から曇りで雪から夕焼けになって、これがプログラマブルにコントロールされます。
Mad, isn't it?
It is mad because they haven't just stopped at, at this point, they've added an extra layer. Now we've got to think about the weather.
NPC の行動制御、スクリプトと
And just how the atmosphere of the game works off of that as well. Like when the sun goes down, it's nighttime, and all shadows, and then there's stuff as well.
So, where it says different schedules for the weekday and the weekend, I don't think that actually made it, did it? Because I'm pretty sure they do the same.
Some of it does, because we were talking about Megumi. She comes home from school, and she's got a school bag on her back weekdays, but at the weekend she's not.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
We'll have to do that, investigate it properly, like with some of the others, and see if it's in or not.
Obviously, there's a weekend buzz structure, and like the buzzes come like 15 minutes later or whatever on the weekend.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
So I suppose, in a sense, characters who get off the buzz are going to get off at a different time.
I didn't think of that.
We're talking about this with George, weren't we, Matt?
Yeah,
a little bit. Where's he found these photos?
That's clever. And this is pre-translation, it going to Sega America to be dated over there. They had a massive list. It was huge.
300 bucks a day. And the recording videos on VHS.
Yeah, I saw that. I've read that on something the other day. Yeah.
Did he just say that this was the first game to have branding?
One of, I think, yeah.
One of.
You had like, you had like Cool Spot was like Virgin back in the day.
Oh, true, yeah. 7-Up.
That's actually interesting what you're saying about the machines moving, because in all the stuff I've checked from Shenmue 2 from the Game Jam beta to the final, like a few of the machines actually moved around. So
that's interesting.
yeah.
In light of that change, possibly.
プロダクトマネージメント。またこのプロジェクトで一番大変だったのはプロダクトマネージメントでした。
See, this is where a lot of the money got spent, I think.
Yeah.
超える未体験の大型プロジェクトになりました。
10,000 items in a database. My God.
And those old computers they were all using at the same time.
It's insane, isn't it? 10,000.
It's hard to keep track of all that. It is madness.
99年冬、シェンムー一章横須賀をなんとかリリースすることができました。
I do note how that pictures a foreign Dreamcast, PAL controller.
What's it? With the blue swirl?
もうちょっと話そうかな。シェンムーのレクチャーのために皆さん集まっていただいてありがとうございました。
I'd love him to do a Shenmue 2 one, actually, and a Shenmue 3 one.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
The Shenmue 2 one would be really cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Right, so we're going to stop the GDC talk there. Basically goes into a bit of a Q&A, which we'll do in a moment, actually. I've got the questions and answers. We can rattle them off. But before we finish this sort of discussion here, has anyone got anything to say about that last little chunk there? So we sort of saw some of the data compression techniques that they used, and then ultimately what became Shenmue as a released game in the end after being bug tested and whatever.
I know I'm not technically minded at all, so I'm probably going to say these things wrong, but I think the sheer amount of compression they had to do to get that on a disc or discs is insane. And how creative it was that they thought about, right, we obviously can't put a whole forest on here because we haven't got the space. How do we do it? Right, let's they called it the seeds, didn't they? And then have the seeds sort of grow as you move through. That was really clever. I don't know if other games did it before. I couldn't tell you, but I admire the creativity around it. And you don't see it in game.
No.
You don't know. There's no real stuff. I know it's pushing the Dreamcast hard when you play it, especially Shenmue 2. It sounds like it's going to blow up, but you don't see it in terms of in-game stutter too much. Yes, there's frame rate drops, but that happens across the whole of Shenmue 2 because there's so much going on. It actually is pretty damn smooth and well optimized given the challenges they had. And I think it's a technical marvel that they did what they did with the technology they had at the time, regardless of whether you like the games or not.
Bug free as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
I just think, it's just absolutely fascinating, some of the techniques they use, and I think it just shows how sometimes constraints can breed sort of creativity because of the space considerations. They basically just came up with this system, which is just crazy, and as you say, you can't tell that when you're playing the Guilin section. You wouldn't be able to tell that's the way it works. You'd just think they obviously designed all of this. Just the fact they were able to pull it off the way they did. And, the same with the rooms in Kowloon, the fact that they made this, what is essentially an AI that can sensibly predict how a room would be laid out. And as you say, they didn't need to do that. A lot of the time there's no reason to go into half of those rooms, but it's just the fact that
you can
that you can, it's just to add to the realism, and just the fact that all these inner workings and subsystems are going on within this one game. It's just insane. And I don't think We probably don't see that in games anymore. I guess we just take it for granted, like, oh yeah, they can program this stuff now. They don't have to worry about disk space or anything like that. And in a way, I'm almost glad that Shenmue came out when it did, because I think the constraints and limitations of the time just made it like all the more special that they were able to cram all this onto the discs. Like, yeah, it's just absolutely mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, going from what they initially planned as like a 50 disc, it would take 50 discs. They managed to figure it out to get it on 3 discs. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
Like Matt was saying, like there's no stutter or anything with any of this stuff. And considering how graphically advanced the game is, especially for the Dreamcast, it's like one of the best looking games on the system.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to have such smooth gameplay elements where you open a door and it's generated the room on the fly.
Yeah.
It's not like as you walk in, objects are popping up on the screen.
No.
It's there. No. It's like literally that transition of the door opening, the room is already there. It's such a, you've got to commend the product that they managed to create, and it's just a shame it kind of released on the Dreamcast because obviously the console wasn't a success, so the game ultimately wasn't a success.
Yeah.
Whereas if perhaps it was on the PlayStation 2 or whatever, maybe it would have sold the amount that they put into it.
Yeah,
budgetary wise.
They made a massive mistake not bringing Shenmue 1 over to Xbox. I stand by it. I know there's technical issues around especially Shenmue 1 being quite heavily tied to the Dreamcast architecture more so than Shenmue 2, which would have presented challenges. And I know D3T talked about that when they worked on the re-releases. But for any console, Xbox or PlayStation 2, it made no sense not to bring Shenmue 1 with it because people are having to start a story halfway through. There's nothing wrong with Shenmue the movie, but let's be brutally honest with you. Who the hell's going to really sit and watch it and pay that much attention to it?
You could say that about a few of the games, really, that were decisions. Like Jet Set Radio, for example. They released Jet Set Radio Future. Why not Jet Set Radio 1 as well? Like, why did they make these decisions to sort of keep Dreamcast games exclusive in a sense, even though the console at that point had died and the games were kind of like free reign on other systems? They could have been. The series is carried on. He's like, Matt just said there was no reason as such to not release Shenmue apart from the difficulties of adapting it from Dreamcast to Xbox. But I'm sure they could have found a way and it could have been successful, and maybe not on the Xbox. I don't know. Maybe that was one of the exclusives that hit the Xbox that kind of damaged the series in a sense. Whereas if it had hit the PlayStation 2 as one of their exclusives, or probably not the GameCube, but PlayStation 2 seems to have been, obviously that was like up until recently, but that was like the best selling console of all time, wasn't it? I think the PlayStation 2 because of the bloody DVD drive, basically. But it could have been a different story.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have had a challenge on PlayStation 2. Again, I'm not technologically minded, so this is going to be a very basic explanation. But essentially, the Dreamcast is a texturing powerhouse, and it also inputs at a much higher resolution than the PlayStation does, so it allows it to have that real sort of colourful, bright look. Whereas I think on the PlayStation, it would have looked more grainy, I think, in its presentation.
Would it look like Yakuza 1?
Maybe, I don't know. I think there'd have been some concessions would needed to have been made, or changes that needed to be made to make it run on a PlayStation 2 effectively. And whether that was worth also the risk, I don't know. And also, I reckon Microsoft just came with a briefcase full of money and said, "Here you go," and they went, "Thank you."
Yeah,
which you can understand.
Yeah.
Right, guys, good stuff. We're going to rattle through these Q&A. Obviously, I've stripped these away from the actual show because there's a lot of like translation back and forth. Obviously, it's going from English to Japanese, Japanese to English. Yep. So I'm going to send these over to Matt and we'll rattle these out between us. Okay, so if I ask the question, you do the answer, Matt?
Yeah, cool. Let's do it.
Okay, so the first question that was asked in the Q&A section, obvious one. It's quite funny, actually. It was the first question. When will Shenmue 3 be released?
The answer. ...
Yeah. It's actually quite funny. And I mean, these GDCs, I don't watch many, but I also watch the Panzer Dragoon one.
I heard that was
And-
good.
Wait, hang
Yeah.
on, sorry. Did he literally say ... like Knuckles
not
does
as
in the
such.
Sonic movie?
Not as such, but the translator translated it as like ...
Right, okay.
But yeah, like I was saying, like the Panzer Dragoon GDC, there was a similar sort of thing there where they got to the Q&A section, and the first question was, is it true that the source code for Panzer Dragoon Saga has been lost? And like everyone's laughing because that is like the key question that everyone wants to know the answer to.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that, Matt, actually, it's good because the answer's quite reassuring that he turns around and says, you know, well, actually, something may have been found recently is like the answer he comes up with, but you haven't heard it here, basically. So I don't know what's going on with that, but it kind of hinted that maybe something was in the works, but that was like, I think that was like 2018 or something.
Yeah.
But just a funny question to start off with, and obviously little did we know, a year later,
Bang.
Yeah.
bang. Yeah. Question 2, Matt. You mentioned having to throw together a lot of things that are very common today in games. We still use terms like QT all the time. Did you think that Shenmue would have that far a reach into the future?
And the answer to that is, I did see the need for an easy system everyone can play and get engaged into a game, but I didn't think it would be as long-lasting as we've seen today.
Okay.
Because he kind of designed the QT, didn't he? That was like his phrase coined. Even though there was kind of QTs before that, like Dragon something. What am I thinking of there?
I've totally forgotten the name of it. Yeah, I know the game you mean.
I know the game you mean. I can't remember it. But yeah.
Quest? No.
Is it Dragon
For
Quest?
some reason, it's just Dragon Quest. Yeah.
Something like that. Tell us if we're wrong in the comments.
Dragon Quest is the RPG game, isn't it?
But there was,
Can't quite think of
Dragon
it randomly,
something.
but it's like a cartoon.
QT.
It's mad that all three of us can't think of it, but yeah, I think that was where like QTs kind of started like FMV games, but YOKOSUKA coined the phrase.
Dragon's Lair. Sorry, I just googled it.
There we bloody go. Whoops.
Nice one, Stu. Okay, question 3. A long time ago, there was a video of Ryo riding a bicycle in YOKOSUKA. Why did it get cut?
That's a bit of a holy grail question, that one. He said there are so many things that I'd eventually give up on trying to get into the game. And in Shenmue, for example, taking a bike, hopping onto a transportation vehicle would get you from point A to B quicker. That was something I really wanted to do, but in the end, we can't get everything into the game. So there's a lot of things we had to give up on.
Fair enough. Question 4. As a game designer, how important was it for you to convey the venality of everyday life in the actions of the main protagonist? For example, petting a cat or buying a box of crackers. Things you don't typically do in a lot of other games.
This is a bit of a longer answer, but he said, so I did believe that if you implement or pursue things that aren't normally done or seen in other games, then you will eventually see an effect that creates originality and uniqueness into your games. For example, in Shenmue, 200 to 250 characters, they are all living their lives, they go to work, they're taking care of their business. You follow these players, they're still living their lives, even though you may not be paying close attention to them every step of the way. That brought out the Shenmue-ness, really breathing in life or the air into that world. I do think that is important. However, we all know that we always need to be concerned about budget and our limitations. But if you can find a very efficient way and the output is going to have a larger effect of creating uniqueness and originality, so I think it is important, which,
Spot on. That's kind of like what we were talking about, how YOKOSUKA designs his games to have this sort of originality and uniqueness in the experience. He like when he was talking about the RPGs back in the day, he's trying to find things that you can improve on, and by improving on them, he's created like sort of something unique to his game, because he's the only one that's thought to improve in that way, I guess. Question 5, if you don't mind, would you feel like relating some of the stories behind the creative process behind Space Harrier?
Okay. So the quick sort of rundown of how we got there was initially the idea that we were going to have a jet plane and it was going to be going into a downwards motion facing the ground. And I wanted this very sort of spectacle scene. That's what I had in mind. However, the setting wasn't sci-fi. In order to execute that and make it look very beautiful using a plane, we needed a lot of patterns. The routes of planes would fly. back then, because we weren't 3D, we were using sprite animation, which we would need a lot, so that meant a lot of memory. And that led to, okay, well, if it's not creating all these beautiful patterns to show off the plane, why don't we replace it with a human? That way we display it largely and the expressions will still make sense. But then now you have to think, okay, originally it wasn't a sci-fi setting, but now we're making human flies. So now I have to make it a sci-fi setting. So that's the kind of flow of how it came to be.
Interesting.
Again, that's limitations inspiring creativity, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure. I think I've heard that he wanted it to be a jet plane originally in like another interview or something, and just the way the means led to becoming a bloke with a massive gun thing on his arm and just flying around the screen. It's iconic because of that now.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be iconic, I don't think, with the plane.
No.
There was a lot of character to that character. Question 6. So today you showed an early prototype of Shenmue, the Old Man and the Peach Tree. So I was wondering, would it be possible to play this demo one day? Because it seemed like a finished demo, because you've got a beginning and an end, etc. So I was wondering if one day it could be published.
Now, the quick answer is it's probably in a vault somewhere and nobody knows where it is.
Yeah.
The answer given at the time was, the prototype was made as a prototype and had the quality of a prototype. That in itself was a great one, but if I can and I have the chance, I think I would like to create it as a hobby, but not necessarily thinking about marketability and how it would really form into an actual product. So I think it's sort of he'd like to do something with it, but he's not entirely sold on the actual quality of it. If that came out and was leaked out tomorrow, we'd be streaming it, wouldn't we? Going, oh my god, it'd be the sort of thing that we'd be like all over, like a bloody rash. But I get his point, because it is a prototype and it may or may not be judged as such. But I guess in this day and age, especially it being on the Saturn and it was such a long time ago, I think people would just be keen to see what it was about and actually how advanced it was for the Sega Saturn, and whether it was on just a base Sega Saturn, was it on a black belt Sega Saturn or something like that? I don't know. There'd be a lot of questions around it as well, which I think would not just open up to Shenmue community, but I think also the wider retro community, especially the Sega community. There'd be a lot of interest in it, I think.
That answer's quite telling now. He says it's got the quality of a prototype, so that says to me it's very much unfinished. So it's like it's an idea, but perhaps not a playable one.
Probably not polished, is it? And not optimized, and they just got it working as a proof of concept.
Yeah, agreed. Question 7. What was the most difficult challenge when developing Shenmue? And if you were developing Shenmue right now, would that challenge be easy to solve? Also, you mentioned a lot of ideas that you couldn't end up using, so if you had the chance, which idea do you think would be possible to achieve now?
This is an interesting one. He says, so the biggest challenge probably would be that it was just so difficult to manage tons of characters. The system was just not available at the time. But if we were fast forward today, for example, we could solve it by using the network environment or just going online with it. Then that way we can still manage tons of characters, even ones that you don't see here or aren't nearby, they're far away. So I do think we would be able to solvable if we were developing a game today. In terms of cost performance, back then, chapter per chapter, it was you introduced to a new environment. We really had a very luxurious way of making these chapters and presenting them in a gorgeous way. So the cost performance in terms of a purely development standpoint was not that great. So I think we can do much, much better and create something that's high quality, but do it in a very efficient manner using the 3D engines that are available today. And that is something that we could definitely overcome.
Yeah, that's an interesting answer, because in mentioning there how we can use stuff that's more readily available today more efficiently, like 3D engines, makes me think of like what they perhaps had in mind at this particular point in time with Unreal. Using Unreal 4 to create Shenmue 4, they don't have to create the engine again for a Shenmue game. They've already got the engine there and they just need to sort of build with that engine. That's kind of what that answer sounds a bit like to me.
Yeah, it does to me as well. It's taking advantage of the things that are there at the time, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, really, when you think about it?
Yeah, and strange he mentioned like online. I don't know if he was still sort of thinking about Shenmue Online aspect with the players and the characters or whatever, but yeah, not sure what to make of that. And the last question, one of the great design challenges of making a cinematic game like Shenmue is how do you have a dynamic camera without disrupting gameplay for the player. So, in addition to QTE, what are some other modes of gameplay that really lend themselves well to having a free-moving, dynamic camera that is very cinematic?
So the answer is, so back when we utilised camera work from folks in Hollywood, basically, and we analysed what types would work best for our game, which is interesting because it links into his message this year a little bit. After doing our analysis, we basically came down to about 5 different types of camera work. Of course, there were specific scenes that required special needs, but basically what we'd do is within these 5 sorts of modes or tiers, we would then create a subset. So it was camera 1 to 3, camera 1 to 4, and so on. So we tried to keep it or contain it within the set that we had already pre-approved. If we didn't do that, then just cost performance would have been really awful and we wouldn't be able to execute what we set out to do as the goal. And also, because those folks didn't have enough experience with working with games, we had to have it off our own set of guidelines to work within these boundaries that we set. Otherwise, we would not have had a very organised system.
Interesting. So do you think, again, that was like Spielberg? Not very familiar with games, but you can show Yu Suzuki how to make a dolly camera scene.
Sounds
possibly.
a bit like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Possibly. Yeah, some decent questions in there. Not the most groundbreaking questions, but some interesting tidbits within that. And that sort of wraps us up there. And thinking about what we're going to be doing with part 2 of this particular 2-part series, we want to go a little bit back to the chapter tiles and cover them a little bit more in depth, but using the Shenmue Master interviews that Matt mentioned earlier. So we're going to be having a lot more question and answer sort of stuff like this. We'll sort of include Stuart a little bit more in that process, in terms of maybe you can ask a question, Stu, or answer a question, just so that we split this a bit more 3-way. But that's going to be interesting to see if any of our opinions change, or you got any more input into those chapter tiles after revisiting some of the Shenmue Master interviews, which are very spoiler heavy, if you didn't know, guys. So look forward to that. Yeah, if you want to sort of have a few things spoilt for you in the world of Shenmue, definitely tune in next time. I have prepared a little bit of a quiz. I know we're running a little bit over than what I was thinking, but I don't know about you guys. It's episode 1 of the new series, so we'll go on a little bit longer this time, eh? If you want.
Yeah, fuck it.
Okay, so final little music break of the little game thing we did. not so much a game, it's not that special, but Shenmue 3 this time, and again it was a draw. We all picked a different song each, which is interesting. So the Chibi decider on this one was Oxen Toe, who picked the song.
Oh, you're kidding.
Is that you, Stu?
That was me.
Fair enough. If you don't know what the song is based on the title, guys, you will know instantly and probably turn the episode off at this point.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry.
Just to name the other songs we picked was Flow of the Lijiang River, which I'm guessing was you, Matt.
Yeah.
And I picked a song called Raijin, which, as I was playing through songs, that sounded really cool, actually. I think it is
do
in the
really
game.
like that one. Yeah.
It's like a battle theme, I think, but one of the better battle themes, in my opinion. But yeah, here's Oxen Toe. welcome back, guys. That was Ox in Tow, classic from Shenmue 3. Banger. Absolute banger. Right, so quiz-wise, I kind of came up with this yesterday, thinking, like, what could we quiz both of you guys on? And you can work together on this. We're not going to be mean and make you compete against each other. So work together on this. So the last time you were on, Stu, we sort of did like a naming quiz where you went mental and named like every single character in the series. Unbelievable. But do you know capsule toys?
Possibly, yes. I
Okay.
think so.
So let's see how you get on with this little quiz. So I've come up with these questions. So some of this might be wrong. Hopefully not. We'll see as we play. So first question, guys. Can you name all of the Sonic characters found in the Sonic the Fighter's capsule toy set?
Oh, bloody hell. So you've got... Oh,
So there's
Obvious one first, maybe?
Sonic 1, obviously.
Sonic.
There's two of Sonic.
There's two, there's two Sonics. There's the Tails. There's Knuckles. You get Robotnik.
Yeah. There's an Eggman.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Metal Sonic.
Yeah. Bean.
Bean and Bark.
Yeah.
SBO.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice pick.
Fang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supersonic.
Supersonic, you got them all.
Hey, there we go.
I was expecting you to slip up on someone like SBO perhaps, but good job, good job. Next one. Can you name all of the Sega IP that you can find in Shenmue 1's Sega World capsule toy machines?
Oh boy,
so
okay.
Think about the games that you can...
The games. Okay, so... Golden Axe, I think that's where the chicken leg's from.
That is, yeah. Spot on.
Yep. There's a couple of knights.
Yeah.
You've
got do you want me to read as you name the IP here? I'll read what you can get. So you can get knights. There's actually two of them, and there's a peon. You know, the little little thing with the chow. There's actually like a diorama version.
Sonic as well, technically. Then if there's a chow in
Sonic
there.
Adventure, with chow.
Yep. Alex Kidd.
Yeah.
Yep.
Daytona the Hornet.
Yes. Fantasy Zone. I think there's a few from Fantasy Zone.
You've got the Opa.
There is, yeah. I'll name them all. So you've got Ida 2, Cobra Beach, Opa, Jet Opa, Poppers, Shop, and Heavy Bombs.
Yep. That was
from
the one
Fantasy Zone.
Thinking. Ristar.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
There's Bonanza Brothers.
Yeah. Mobo and Robo.
Yep. Oh, what else is there?
Shenmue 1, by the way.
Panzer Dragoon? Is there something from Panzer Dragoon?
There is, yeah. Solo Wing.
Yeah.
There's two.
There's something from.
There's three more.
Is there something from Afterburner?
There's something from Space Harrier.
Space Harrier, right?
Yeah.
There isn't Afterburner in Shenmue 1.
Hang on.
There's a
kind of map, but not in this set. Not in this toy machine.
Okay.
There's a jet or a plane from something.
There is a plane. You're right. It's a tricky one to get. This one, I wouldn't get this one.
Why have I got Fighters Megamix in my head? The fucking dude, the blue dude in it with the visor.
Oh, Rent-A-Hero.
Yeah.
He's not in that machine, is he? He's one of the raffle prizes.
Okay.
You get.
I cannot remember
what.
I can't remember what the plane's from.
No, I can't.
Future questions. No. So the plane, I'll give you that one. It's Galaxy Force.
Okay.
It's a Tri-Z.
Yeah.
And there's one more IP series here that you've missed. Quite a well-known, popular one. There was games on the Mega Drive. There was probably in Japan games on the Saturn. And there was also an online one on the Dreamcast.
Fantasy Star?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Got the little cat there, the little yellow cat.
Meow, yeah.
Yeah, Meow.
Yeah.
And the final one, there is one more. It's not really anything you probably would get, but these are the little capsule toys with the consoles heads.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, they got taken out, didn't they, of the re-releases, if I remember rightly.
Oh, did they?
Oh, they're
The
still
Game
in
Gear.
there, but they haven't got bodies anymore.
That's
They're literally
it.
just the consoles.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's weird, but okay.
Okay.
Cool, interesting tidbit there. So, beside the aforementioned Sonic the Fighters and the Sega World capsule toy machines, can you name all of the other Shenmue 1 capsule toy machines that you can find?
Okay, so there's a Virtua Fighter 1.
Yep.
That's outside Abe, yeah.
Yeah. There's a Virtua Fighter Kids one.
Yep.
There's a Harbour set.
There is a Harbour set. You've got.
Yep. There's one more.
There's a cute.
Is that the one with all the
button.
cars? And
there you go. Stu's got it. Yeah, cars.
And I think that's the one that's got all the hang-on ones as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bang on. You're doing really well, guys. I wasn't expecting this. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Stu, with a prize from the Abe store.
Okay.
Or Abe store. Can you name all of the capsule toy prizes from the Abe store?
Gold Dural is definitely one.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's Silver Dural.
Yep.
Yeah.
We said Rent a Hero.
Yeah.
Yep.
Metal Sonic.
That's
I think he
from
said
the Tomato Mart.
Was it Tomato?
Yeah. Oh God.
Because 5.
There's one of Mobo and Robo, isn't there, together? But I think that's.
No, you're right. Yeah, there is.
That is there. Okay.
That's Abe store. Bonanza Brothers.
Oh, what are the other Abe store ones?
5 random, or am I making that up? No, it's random at Tomato, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the 5th price is random everywhere, isn't
the
it?
Prize is random here as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what are the other ones?
You've got to think of. I'm guessing. So Gold Dural's like the star, then Silver's
That's the top
one.
Yeah.
So you're looking for row 2 and row 3.
Oh, okay. So,
That's hard.
Yeah, I can't think now. Are there cassette tapes at the Abe store?
Clue. Not at the Abe store, no.
No.
They are literally all capsule toys.
Mr. Yukawa.
Mr. Yukawa,
Yes! Yeah, there's 2 of him, isn't there? There's one of him in the
2.
business suit, and there's one of him in that orange suit.
There you go, yep.
Oh, this is written really hard.
I can't remember what the other 4th prizes are. Oh, God.
No, that's not right.
Mm.
Space Harrier.
Space Harrier's one. The actual guy. And then there's one that's an arcade machine. I'll give you that. Can you think of the name of the arcade machine?
R360.
Yep.
Yeah, well done.
That's got it. Bang on. Moving on then. So, Shenmue 2 now. Can you name the additional Sega IPs that are covered as capsule toys only found within Shenmue 2? And a little hint here, they are Sega AM2 games.
Virtua Fighter 2. That counts.
Kind of, yeah. It wasn't what I was thinking, but you're right. You are right.
There's Virtualon, but I think that
Yes.
was AM3. I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's one of the
Virtualon,
two ones.
Why
Yeah.
Virtualon.
What else? There's a few. There's some from Dreamcast games, isn't there? Like there's oh, what's that jet ski game called?
Hydro
If you got
Thunder?
them.
No.
It's not that.
No,
but
there was a
she's on the right
powered jet racing, something like that.
I can't believe you got that. Yeah, Power Jet
Is
Racing.
that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay. And also, I think there's some from Outrigger.
Outrigger.
Outrigger, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's some characters from that trucking game, 18 Wheeler.
18 Wheeler.
Yeah. Can't believe you're getting these, but yeah. And then there's 2 standalone ones that I'm thinking of. You have kind of mentioned one earlier when you're on about a plane. That's going to give it away.
Oh, there's that weird one. It's called the Smart Set, where it's like literally things from Shenmue 2.
Yeah, I wasn't. That's not what I'm on about. Just Sega IP.
Sega, sorry.
Yeah.
Afterburner then.
Afterburner was one.
Oh,
And then-
Outrun, because you can get the car, I
Yep.
think.
There you go.
Yeah.
You've got them all.
Oh, bloody hell.
I don't know how you're doing this, but you've got them all. Right, so Shenmue 3 now.
Oh,
Can you
shit.
name all
Okay.
of the Shenmue 1 characters that are found in Bailu
Right.
Village?
So there's Rio.
So Rio, Guizhang, Ine-san, Chai, Forklift Rio, Nozomi.
Yeah, spot on.
I'm quite impressed I got that.
I think there's only one type of Rio, and it is the forklift one from that one. Shenmue 2 characters found in Niawu then now, capsule toys.
I think there's another one of Rio, isn't there, in the Shenmue 2
There's a
machine?
Rio, you've got Zhuing, you've got Fang Mei, you've got Joy with her bike,
Mm-hmm.
you've got Landy, Ren.
Or more for the full house.
Oh god, who's the other one?
Shenhua, no.
You got it, yeah?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Bloody hell, guys, you got every single question correct there. 100%, which is mad, I think, for considering some of the capsule toys there. Yeah, well done.
I'll get a lottery ticket based on that.
I think you should, man.
Give
I'm
you a
really
virtual
surprised
high
at that.
five, Matt.
Yeah.
That brings us to the end of the show. Yeah, I don't know what more to say after that performance. I'm honestly really surprised there. But Matt, I don't know if you've got them in front of you, but do you want to give a little shout out to our dojo disciples?
I do. I will give a shout out to the Dojo Disciples. So, for those of you who don't know what this is, it is our YouTube membership scheme, where for £2 a month you can get early access to all of our video content outside of the podcasts. We like to keep the podcasts as premieres because it's quite a nice atmosphere and that sort of thing. But any of the Saturday videos that I do, you'll get early access to them when I upload them, which is normal, depending on how lucky you are. Could be a few days before, or in the current situation, a few weeks before. It really depends how I go. But it's only a couple of quid a month. If you don't want to sign up to it, it's fine. None of the content gets locked behind a paywall. You can access it all on the intended release dates. All the money goes towards running of the website, giveaways, etc., for James and I, because we pay for it out of our own pockets. So anything is much appreciated. But for the members that are out there, the Dojo Disciples, I'll go through the list. Sean Potter, Guppy Coy, Bruce Wayne 937, Survival Spears, Peter Hoffland, Sean Don, Wandering Through Shenmue, Phantom River Stone, Nova, Bruce Wayne 911, Mike Franz, Manny Figueroa, Master Mo, Nick Hughes, Sean Hastings, Clunky Mage, and William Lovering. Thank you for your contributions and being members and enjoying the content. It helps James and I out massively.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone there. Brilliant stuff. Stuart, you join us again next episode, but thank you so much again for joining us here. Hopefully
No worries.
you enjoyed that. Going a bit of a blast from the past with the GDC there. I don't know, when was the last time you actually watched that GDC in full?
Oh, I think I've probably watched it at least once since 2014. But yeah, it's been a long time, and I still can't believe that was 10 years ago. That's just insane to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised how short it was. Actually, I feel like I remember it being really long, but it is like the actual talk is 30 minutes. So yeah, surprised me that did when I came to design the notes for the show. But yeah, so I'm not going to let Matt go through all the where you can find a spiel. I think you know that by now, guys. You're season 4 seasons deep. Just head over to the dojo for all the latest links, and everything's in the show notes below, including Stuart's websites and blog posts and all that sort of stuff. You'll find below in the show notes if you're interested. We're going to close the show with 2 pieces of music, actually, that are coming from George Kitchen. Shared these recently on the Discord. So we've got his remade track for the cleaning Soot, piece of music from Shenmue 2. And I'm going to end with the Hazuki Farewell from Shenmue 1. I think that would be a nice way to tie out the episode here. But incidentally, if anyone does have anything at all, not just going to Joe and George Kitchen all the time or Richard Cartledge or whatever, but if you have anything audio-wise you want to share with us, whether that's in the form of a song, a piece of music, spoken monologue or something about Shenmue, drop us a line. Like I say, on any of the Shenmue Dojo outlets, someone's going to pick it up, and yeah, we can potentially include it as part of a future show. That'd be quite interesting to do some of that in season 4 if you've got something you want to get out there, be it a message or something or a piece of music. We'll find a spot for it. But yeah, thanks very much again for tuning in, everyone. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and we'll see you with part 2 of this 2-part mini-series we've got here with Stu in about 4 to 6 weeks' time.
when we can get our asses together and do another podcast, yeah.
The typical going rate, basically. Yeah, good stuff, guys. Thanks very much again for tuning in. See you next time.
See you next time, guys. Thanks for joining.
Ah, look at the time.